It's tuning in YouTube. JBLive.tv, always online. I mean, come on. All right, here we go. It is time for Linux Unplugged, and I'm setting up right now. Delatai. I feel like delatai should be a word. Is that a word? Should be. So I was thinking, Beardsley, I put the Librem right there.
Yeah.
Thought maybe you could just put your hands all over it and then give it some initial hands-on impressions. I've had it for a few weeks now. You know, you can just sort of touch it and use it as you would. Make it your own. Oh, it's, hello, Eric! Hello, hello.
Oh, hey! Oh, hey! Didn't see you come in here.
Oh, hi there. Oh, hi. You're a little hot on your end. You're a little clipped. A little clipped. See you there.
That makes sense. I think I can adjust that, though.
He has the power.
In fact, I know I can adjust that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not an audio engineer for nothing.
He can make it happen, everybody. There's the proof is in the pudding. Well, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, except this rain decided to show up and rain on my RV parade.
Yeah, it is. It is happening here, too.
Yeah, although I am getting over a cold. It was pretty rough going yesterday.
You do sound a little sick.
Yeah, I've got this thing decided to attack my throat, become bronchitis.
Oh, it's the worst.
Dude, I was hacking up all sorts of stuff until my wife got me some NyQuil. Actually, not NyQuil, Dayquil. But it doesn't keep you up at night, so I took it anyways.
Yeah.
I feel so much better, man.
Good. Yeah, did you get it did you get it from somebody you know?
I'm gonna blame my nephew. I think.
Is he of the younger persuasion? They tend to be a common vector. Yep.
He is too. My sister and brother-in-law are pulling what I did way back when 3 years ago and moved in with my parents. So I was there, just minding my own business, and all of a sudden my nephew coughs on me. I'm like, great. Sure enough, 2 days later.
Yeah, it's funny.
You know?
Here you go. Here's a little download. You know, so we gotta figure something out here shortly. I feel like we may want to move to Discord for Linux Unplugged. For the voice. Which only reason I haven't is because there's just a great group in the Mumble Room. So Joe and I, for like the first 20 episodes, basically like the last 15, I don't know. Since the beginning of the show, we've been using Mumble to hear each other, and then we record locally.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of weeks ago, we were having just horrible lag on the Mumble server. So we thought, okay, well, we'll just switch to Discord today. And the audio quality, and because I have it set higher too, probably in Discord, is noticeably better. Like, good enough that you almost like wouldn't want to double end it. Like for this show, for Unplugged, I think it'd be good enough. And there's just Eric right now in the on-air room, and we have we have 2 people in join. And there's more than that in Discord that are asking for us to do it in there. So like people are standing by and ready to go in the Discord room. So I don't know. I do not know. But it's starting to cross my mind, I guess.
You could always trial it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
Play around with it, see what happens.
Doot.
So I've run into my first issue, Chris.
Oh, yeah?
The usual login does not work.
Oh, you need my login? You need me to get you a suit up? Yeah, all right. I'll stand by. I can fix that.
I was sleeping.
Go.
You gonna give me that dangerous SU minus?
Up. There you go. Have at it. Dun.
Now I'll destroy everything.
So yeah, in I would say now, I think we're 3 or 4 weeks into using Discord, and it's really good audio quality compared to what we're getting from Mumble. So I don't know. If you combine that with the fact that there seems to be people over on Discord, maybe we'll make a switch. I don't know. I guess I kind of hoped that wouldn't really be something a bridge we'd have to cross. I guess I kind of hoped Mumble would just keep it working. Saw Wonder Woman for the first time this weekend. Wasn't bad.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how was that?
Yeah, wasn't bad.
Haven't seen it yet myself.
Yeah, there's fun moments. Those superhero movies are a good time. A good time. I enjoy a good superhero movie.
Hey, I know this might go down badly, but I'm looking forward to Episode 8, Star Wars.
Oh yeah, sure. I enjoy me some Star Wars.
I might have to take a Xanax when I watch it, though. That thing looks pretty dark.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little heavy. That's what everything's heavy now. All your sci-fi's got to be heavy for a little bit, I guess.
I like the good old days where shit didn't make sense and it just made you like go, haha, that's terrible.
Terminator was pretty heavy for me though. Oof, that was rough. I gotta play this clip. Producer Matt sent me this clip today. Every now and then you gotta collect like Trump soundboard items, and I think this would be one for the Trump soundboard. But it's a little too long, but I'll play it for you.
You're not known to be a humble man, but I wonder.
I think I am actually humble. I think I'm much more humble than you would understand.
As you
Wow.
That's awesome, man.
It is so great. I wonder if I could trim that a bit.
You're not known to be a humble man,
So if I could trim it in just right here.
but I wonder.
Wait, no, not right here.
I think I am actually humble. I think I'm much more humble than you would understand.
Maybe just
As
that
you-
part. I think I'm much more humble than you'd understand. It just doesn't feel like I'd ever have context for it. But it's such a great moment.
I feel like you could find a lot of places to use that.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. All right. So Wes Payne submitted a link into the show earlier today. A real doozy that I was going to go pull up. A real doozy. But there was a lot of links. A lot of links. Excuse me.
I'm not a fan of the positioning of this keyboard.
I think that's why I was having a hard time typing the password in. Oh, but I can retrain myself with a couple of days of like prolonged typing. I'll pretty much be retrained. Well, shit. Sometimes the problem is there's too many links. I feel like the NSA here. I got too much hay in this stack. Here it is. It's because it's buried in between testing security keys for YubiKey and building real-time collaborative text editors. It's like it's a link between those two stories. So there's like no like obvious like cadence into the structure. It's like because one's about sleep deprivation and the other is about building applications. I guess that does actually kind of go together. I find Mumble to be clunky and very impractical. Discord has a lower barrier to entry, more features, and much better chat. Yeah, they also just rolled out video, which is a real, humdinger. And of course, they're using WebRTC, so it's not like they're using some sort of proprietary thing, And you say screw video, but I wouldn't mean for Mumble. I meant for like guests.
Yeah.
Guests or special presentations or say some future plans that I have for the show. Those kinds of things. But not necessarily for what the Mumble contribution aspect is.
It seems to be one of the first decently reliable implementations of WebRTC too.
So far, I can't believe how good it sounds.
I have a lot of clients that are using WebRTC in their own developments against us, and it's really developed well if it's on a one-to-one application, but Discord does a pretty good job of doing it right.
So not all WebRTC implementations are created equal?
Hell no, man.
That's confusing.
Well, the problem is each we have guys that are using .NET, we have guys that are using HTML5, other ones are Rails applications, and each one's deploying it differently. Some are using it, like .NET uses a Java wrapper for it. And the whole point of WebRTC was to kind of get away from Java, but oh well.
I guess I don't understand how different implementations can be so dramatically better or worse, because the whole point of WebRTC is it's basically using fundamental pre-baked web technologies that either the browser is bringing along, or I don't understand, wasn't that supposed to be the point of WebRTC, is the plumbing aspect of getting real-time video and audio around is taken care of, and so now you just wrap a UI on top of it? Where did we go wrong? See, that doesn't compute. Because I think what happens is if you hear one WebRTC conversation, you go, man, that sounds like shit. And then I hear something in Discord, I'm like, wait, you're telling me this is using the same standards? Same codecs? This is using... doesn't make any sense.
That's the problem, though. Like, for example, most of the guys that are using ours, they have to communicate with the PSTN, so it's G729 or ULAW are the codecs. Or they want us to transcode Opus to G729 or ULAW. And you're going to have some pretty hinky things, but Discord doesn't ever talk to the plain old telephone systems,
right.
or
so it doesn't
cell
have to do any
phones.
of that hanky-panky transcoding or anything like that.
They can use Opus or whatever they want to use, and it sounds
pretty
great.
sure they're using Opus, yeah.
That's the thing with WebRTC is, it may be the same plumbing, but then there's no standard on what codec to use, so everybody uses their own codec. And
who wouldn't use Opus?
People that want low bandwidth usage?
Opus can do that, though. I don't know.
Not like one of the guys is using GSM, and it's like 13 kilobits.
Yeah. I suppose if that's your comparison.
But he's also he's developing it specifically for countries that have bandwidth challenges or cell phones that maybe don't have a Wi-Fi connection. They're trying to do it over 3G.
So the question is do we want this show to be intrinsically linked to Mumble, or do we want this show just to have people participating. I just, it's a really, for some reason, it's a perplexing problem for me because.
See, to me, I say you go where the people are because it's called Linux Unplugged, not Linux on Mumble.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it's kind of nice having a barrier of entry for the conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we have too many barriers of entry, though.
Yeah, I do feel a bit like, oh man, it really is something when I have to send people this super long guide on how to connect to our server.
You need a cert, and then you need to make sure your mic's good. Which is
Well, actually, for a lot of people, just getting Mumble installed is a little bit like they've never done it before.
Yeah.
So that's where you start. Is you got to install Mumble, which has varying degrees of success depending on the distribution you're using.
Yeah. I think.
And has bad mobile apps.
If we were gonna do on Discord, we'd still need to have a join queue, and then we need to have people that have certain permissions to give people roles.
That's true.
So they can join.
Which that isn't really a thing.
An on-air channel. No.
I guess it
doable.
would be flat separate channels.
Yeah.
Not like a hierarchy like we have here. Yeah. Which I guess really still accomplishes the same damn thing.
You know what? No, the problem is though is that the problem isn't probably Mumble or Discord in per se. It's that people that run Linux and change their distro every 15 minutes are going to have problems with Mumble, where Discord, it just ain't going to work.
Discord is easy enough just to run in the web browser, though. Discordapp.com, and you don't even have to install anything. And it actually is fully functional in there. But I think it's a snap now, too.
Yep.
I can't remember if things like push-to-talk works on the web.
Oh,
based.
right.
It does, but it has to be the active window.
Yeah, right. That is a thing. Good point. Mm-hmm.
Which presumably...
Because it's not like I'm trying to code Golang whilst listening to you guys and chatting all at the same time.
Yeah, but surprisingly, a lot of people are doing other things on their computer. Because you can tell every now and when somebody accidentally breaks in with, like, they hit their push-to-talk while they were writing something.
Yeah.
So it is a thing.
Although, to be fair, I think most of those people are just...
We get the app
talking in the Discord.
Well, or if we were using Discord and you were like a reoccurring contributor, you might then just get the app, right?
Yeah.
I suppose. I don't know. I might just for stability purposes, so that way I don't have my browser be the thing that kicks me off the show.
I think that we should all make those businesses fail.
Yeah, there's that perspective. We got a lot to talk about today. Got a lot on the plate today. Linux Unplugged is 33 episodes away from 250. 32 now. But yeah, but before we went on air today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what the crap, Gnome? Reliable.
You're going to come in one of these days. I'm just going to have installed another desktop environment.
So sorry about that live stream. Gnome just crashed on us. So we're back. Well, nothing like a little bit of blank space on your live stream, right? Nothing says professional like your desktop environment crashing, causing your sound server to take a shit, causing your live stream to lose audio for a few moments. But not video, because the video stuff didn't die. Just the desktop environment and sound server. Oh my god, it's so Linux. Hashtag so Linux.
Man,
This is how people end up with Windows 10.
Some of these tips you're going to give out, they're going to make some people angry.
You think so?
Though,
which ones?
Let's say it starts with an S and ends with a D.
Oh wait, are you looking at the doc?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the D? The D's gonna upset people?
D always upsets some.
Yeah, maybe you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. I told you we're gonna be talking about a lot today.
You're embracing some things.
Well, it's the new reality in which we live.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a little DC every now and then. Yeah, don't put D in the corner. That's what I always say. Except for this time, we're gonna put D in the corner.
We're just gonna slip in a little D.
Yeah, put a little D in the corner. Yeah, what are we gonna do about this thing? Like, it stopped crashing. Like, you legitimately fixed it for a while,
Yeah.
and then we didn't change anything, right?
Nope.
Nothing's been updated.
Nope.
No hardware changes.
Nope. It's just
it just started happening again.
It's an automatic remotely triggered restart.
Maybe there's even been a total of 2 reboots total since you fixed it.
The GNOME developers have been removing features, and they wanted you to refresh your desktop.
It is perplexing, though, how
Nothing's changed?
Nothing's changed, but yet the crashes still happen.
Maybe we're getting like stray neutrons going
Well,
from the system.
I do notice that GNOME's performance really takes a shit, like every few days. It gets really bad. And then the crash happens. That seems to be the only 2 things I can correlate. But I really just can't, I can't bring myself to accept that it's that shitty. Because it's supposed to be the goddamn GNOME desktop. Like, this is the one we're all going to be, like, talking about, and everybody's going to be installed by default when they get the new Ubuntus. And it's the ones that ship on Dells and HPs and...
Well, remember, Chris, at the
system
same time, how many bugs have been fixed?
I don't know what to do about it.
You know, Chris, there's this guy that's on the Mumble Rooms. He's a priestess of Neon. He always says that that's the best one to use.
Yeah, I don't think it is, though, for a live streaming broadcast machine. I just don't... My gut tells me that's not the way to go.
I mean, your gut also told you GNOME would be fine.
Well, honestly, I've used GNOME now for a couple of years without problems like this. But Plasma is just... There's a lot of moving parts to the Plasma desktop. Maybe
if you don't install stuff, if it's just like
LX,
set it and leave it works great.
LXDE, maybe, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to switch, I need to go to like a really low end.
Mate.
I feel like that's even still too much desktop. Like there's just too much going on. I just need something that puts the screens up on. I don't even need high DPI support. I just need something that puts.
You could always just do OpenBox.
Yeah. See, when we go to OpenBox, where we go there is, well, then I don't like using it. So then it's like, well, why am I? If I don't like using it, I might as well just be using Windows.
Yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, are you really using it other than switching some scenes?
Enough, enough. I mean, I interact with it a couple of times a day, so it's enough.
I suppose.
That's why I didn't like using it with Mate.
We go with fancy visual beauty enlightenment.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I'd really just like a simple, clean, minimal GNOME install that we don't adjust and don't futz with. I'd just like that to work.
Well, I mean, technically, that's what that is, though.
I know. That's why I'm kind of bummed about it.
Let's go back to GNOME 2. I'm sure somebody's maintaining it, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's
XFCE could be that might be the right desktop environment for this. Rika shakes his head. No. You'd rather do OpenBox? You'd rather do OpenBox before XFCE?
I'd rather write my own window manager.
It's not that bad, dude. It's not that bad. It's just old.
I think that was what came on the first version of Linux I ran. I don't think they've updated it much since then.
Not much, just a little bit.
You know, Chris,
just a little.
That's the same phrasing used to describe Windows XP.
What's that?
It's not that bad. It's just old.
No, XP's bad. No, that's how I describe 7. So I suppose.
No, I'm referring to by the people that still use XP.
Oh. What about Windows 7? Is that or Windows 10 just be the way to go?
I don't have any problems with Windows 10 myself.
Yeah, except for it's expensive. Is buy it. I'd have to buy it.
I'll talk to you off air. There are legal ways to get Windows 10 for no money.
I just don't like using very many other desktops as our live broadcast system. Like for my personal workstation desktop, like I have a different set of requirements, but as the machine that's rendering video all day long and playing reruns and switching scenes when we're live and has lots of different hardware coming into it, I just have a different set of expectations. And I don't know. I got better problems to deal with than the fact that GNOME 3 crashes on me 2-3 times a week.
The only caveat with Windows 10 is you would have to make sure to really disable automatic updates.
God, there's so many
Where
other
I
things.
work,
So
we
many
had a
things.
video server that I swear was like running just TWM or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could understand why. I really could. I could really understand why, because you don't need anything other than just the windows properly displayed. My problem comes down to, quite simply, like even like right now, as we're talking, I'm switching between desktop 4 and desktop 1, and I'm resizing windows on the different desks. Like, so I do use the desktop windowing environment. So it's, yeah. I don't know. I really just want it to be GNOME. I just want it to be GNOME, and I don't want it to crash.
I got it, Chris.
Ubuntu? Maybe we should try Ubuntu. Maybe it would be.
Let's do Xmonad.
Yeah, sure.
So running GNOME on Arch for your live broadcast?
Arch with the LTS kernel and the LTS drivers.
Okay.
And we don't update except for every couple of months, which is usually quite the process. And the last time we fixed it, part of it was doing some of the updates that were in Arch that did fix the issue. But now since that last update, and then things went fine for months, we've not ran a single update because it's working, and we don't have any other requirements. And so we've left it alone, maybe rebooted an entirety of twice. And yet now it's crashing 2 to 3 times a week again.
Maybe it's just one of those setups that needs an occasional reboot.
But it does get one from time to time. I mean, let me see here. So what is our...
Are you purging your memory at night on it?
No, it runs. It's live streaming. It's running applications all night. I mean, it's always working. But this is no task that we didn't have Macs serving for years and years and years. So we are asking. In fact, this is doing considerably less and working considerably less hard than the Macs ever did. And they were older Macs with older versions of OS X. So if that's the issue, then it's pathetic. And I could just put a Mac back in there.
To be fair,
7 days is the uptime currently, which is not that long.
No. To be fair, though, I think you were looking at those Macs through rose-tinted glasses because there was plenty of crashing on those Macs, too.
Sure, but there was this particular problem where my desktop environment takes a shit and cuts my sound out was never one of them.
No, it would just crash the live streaming software and you'd lose the recording.
Right, and I think by the end, our setup of splitting off the Mac and OBS and all that was good, but... It's one fucking type of crash for another, and only this one there's no predictable pattern to it. Like that one is, if I can quantify it and proceduralize it, then I can account for it. If I can't expect it and I can't account for it, then it just becomes a random disruption that sometimes strikes during a live stream, sometimes it strikes during the middle of a production, and there's no accounting for it. And plus, it's almost worse because it doesn't take the stream down. Like if the stream would go down, then people would know, well, at least the stream's offline, but instead we just lose all audio for a while. And it just looks...
People wonder if... Did I mute?
Yeah, no, it just looks low rent. It looks amateur.
Yeah, but
we have looked at the logs. We haven't looked at the logs today, but we have looked at the logs in the past.
One thing with the Macs, though, is I've run Mac for music applications, and we would always reboot them before we went into a live recording.
Yeah.
And they do crash, but they have a whole cleanup process that runs all the time in the back end. And you kind of have to write, it's all do-it-yourself for Linux, so you have to write that in the back end to clean up your applications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those little like cron jobs that they include. The thing is, though, this is not the first Linux box I've tried to run 24/7 before. So I know this is a thing that is achievable. And I understand that it's not an easy job. I don't want to get in the business of making excuses because it's Linux. And like if this is Windows 10, I think we would all be we would have a totally different tone about this. Yeah. It would be ridiculous. It would be inconceivable. It would be horrible. It would be Microsoft trash. But because it's Linux, it's, there's this issue with this, and then of course GNOME's got this problem with Mutter, and so it's not really Linux is fuck it, but at the end of the day, the problem is on the Linux platform I have this problem. And it's just frustrating.
The main reason I mentioned Mate is because the other OBS box we had ran Mate, and it just ran forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it might be an option.
It's definitely got its rough edges as far as usage goes. But
it's hard because it's a different workload because this thing has a lot more going on. Like it's several HDMI capture cards on USB plus that webcam are going 24/7. Even when we're not doing anything, they're still capturing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Beardley, you might have to move the mic a bit because you're a little low. I have not tried Cinnamon recently, although I'm not particularly inclined to try it. Again, anytime you're talking about Plasma or Cinnamon or even Unity or GNOME, you're talking about desktops that are composited, which means you're talking about something that's taking GPU resources and using your NVIDIA driver paths. And anytime you have something that's doing that at the same time, you're also doing broadcasting and coding using those same paths, to me, it would just seem like maybe you are asking for additional possibilities for failure. Whereas if you go with a desktop like XFCE or Mate, which can be completely rendered on the CPU with no GPU compositing, then you're leaving the GPU available for things like OBS and video encoding that perhaps when stressing those same driver pathways remain stabler. I mean, who the fuck knows, right? I mean, it's all black magic, but these are the kinds of problems that I'm dealing with. It's that kind of stuff that I'm thinking about is, well, perhaps I need to go with a non-compositive desktop versus a composited desktop because perhaps I'm dealing with rough edges around drivers, because what's really causing GNOME to crash is that the window manager, the session is crashing because something probably to do with an NVIDIA issue or something to do with some sort of OpenGPL problem or, something that is probably not even something I fundamentally need to do a broadcast is probably breaking. And so if I go to a simpler desktop, then I have less things to break. But then I'm using a desktop that feels like shit and something that's from the 90s, and then I start thinking that, well, Linux can't even do the job I need on a modern desktop. What's the point of shoehorning something that can't do the job into the position when I could just go use an adult operating system that doesn't have these fucking problems, and I can use a more modern desktop environment? So that's sort of where I get stuck at. So then I just sit here with the machine crashing.
I have an idea then, but I'm just throwing this out there. Don't expect anything of it. Plasma does have the ability with a shortcut button, and also you can disable the compositor by default just to turn off the compositor.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and also LXQt's another option.
I do wonder if there would be any difference if we ran it in GNOME fallback.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. That could be another thing. Yeah, I don't think it's the same apples to oranges kind of thing there, Ryan. Unfortunately. Something tells me that gets tested a little bit more on Windows. You can see, actually, video is a particularly tricky thing because you can have a distribution like Fedora shipping Wayland by default for a little while now. And then all of a sudden, a few million users come along and try out 1710, and all of a sudden a whole new series of bugs have been opened up that weren't discovered all of a sudden. Now, did those things not exist? Probably not. They probably always existed. But it was until you had lots of different esoteric edge cases that were pushing on Wayland, it was until then that these things were discovered. It's the same with Windows.
The eyeballs essentially doubled as soon as they went over to the GNOME desktop.
Now imagine something that stresses NVIDIA drivers. Imagine the difference in user base on NVIDIA versus Linux. And then, of course, you combine that with the fact that NVIDIA undoubtedly has substantially more resources behind Windows driver development than they do Linux driver development, which means they probably have better analytics. They probably have more people on point to handle driver issues and fix and get bugs fixed and turned around faster. So those things make it back into the Windows drivers package faster. Plus, you have companies like Adobe who can open up dialogues directly with NVIDIA and say, hey, the Adobe Media Encoder, which is using your OpenCL driver path right here, is hitting a bug, and it's causing performance to degrade. Could you fix that? And then the person at NVIDIA says, yeah, I'll be the PMO on that, and they assign it to a developer, and they get the job done, and it gets fixed back in the Windows driver. Meanwhile, the problem was never even discovered on Linux. And that's just simply the nature of business because you have different companies that are shipping at totally different scales than anything we're doing on Linux. And so while you can have lots of people up on YouTube and Twitch that are streaming under Linux, it's nowhere near, and it's not even a tiny percentage near of what the user base is on Windows. And then, of course, you have the Mac, which is substantially less, and then you have Linux. And so it's not really a fair comparison to say, well, Arrow on Windows runs fine when you're using OBS, so I doubt that's the issue. Who knows? Plus, you don't have X on Windows.
There is also specifically an option on the Windows version of OBS to disable Arrow because it does cause issues.
Oh, X11. Don't even get me started there. Perhaps it is a futile endeavor, and that I should just accept that resistance is futile, and that my biological and technological distinctiveness will be adapted to match the commercial herd.
I see one glimmer of hope for the NVIDIA on Linux issue, which is machine learning and TensorFlow, which seems to be primarily Linux-based. servers because you want to do a large amount of GPU processing, you probably are going to be using a load of clever stuff that's on Linux to handle multiprocessing
And what about
across
Vulkan?
multiple servers.
A wild Popey and Wimpy just appeared.
Oh, hello, Popey. Hello, Wimpy.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Hello.
How's my audio? Is it all right?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I don't hear any clipping.
Good.
I assume it's all fine here as well. Seems a bit loud.
Oh, you sound
Yeah.
awesome.
No, you sound good.
Turn it down. Why is it so loud? Why is it so loud in my head?
Well, those are the
It's
voices.
the voices.
Ah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah.
But my own
Ah.
loudness
Ah.
is loud.
ZFS for the win. If you got any, let me know. I've never tried it. I think it'd probably be something I'd like too much if I knew myself. I guess when you take 23andMe, they'll tell you if you are somebody who's inclined to like cocaine. Did not know that.
They'll tell you that, but they won't tell you what diseases you're at risk for.
Yeah. I guess, right? I guess there must be people that don't. It seems like, from what I've heard, it's like heroin and cocaine are pretty great. So that's why you never try them.
From what I hear, I think there's people that like cocaine and people who haven't tried it.
Yeah. And I intend to stay one of the people who's never tried it.
Same.
Because I don't want to know. All right, Mr. Wes is here. Hello, Wes! Hello! What is it? Oh, no, I'll let the beard have it because I've got a Red Bull, so.
Well, I've got coffee.
Oh. Well, then I'll take it. I'll take it. You're a gentleman, Wes. You're a gentleman.
Oh, wow. It's so loud in my head.
Yeah? Really? Well, thanks, Wes. I appreciate it.
Am I heard at the moment? Can people
Yeah,
hear
you're a
me?
bit low, but I can hear you.
You've gone quiet again.
Okay, that's strange.
I crave ZFS.
Don't we all?
No. No, it turns out not all of us do.
No, that's right. You've got it on for that butter FS.
Oh,
Mostly
yeah,
because
buddy.
the butter
Look
is
at
in the name
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
I know how much you love butter.
Sweet cream butter. Salted.
Salted?
Yeah, dude. I cannot stand unsalted butter.
Is that right?
Really? You like unsalted butter? Ugh, so
Well,
plain.
it's just so much easier to. I mean, I might add salt to whatever I'm using.
Yeah, okay.
it
Well,
with.
then I'm with you. Yeah,
But if
sure.
you want to like bake or I don't know, it's just
yeah,
like
well,
it's
for cooking.
easier to
Yeah,
have.
for cooking.
So
I'm talking like
I'm
on
not gonna
some.
buy two kinds of.
Talking
butter.
about on like some delicious sourdough.
Wes,
yeah.
Wes is a hipster. He liked butter before it was salted.
That's right.
Wes is a time traveler, also. Then.
You're not supposed to let that secret out.
I know. Well, it's kind of obvious once you learn about your butter history, Wes, and all the
That's
rest all
true.
clicks into place.
Apparently, we are lacking people staging people.
Oh. Oh yeah, look at that. We are, aren't we? Well, what the hell's that about? I guess we better move to Discord. Well, I like that commitment that our producers have. I like that. That's nice. That's a real commitment, you know? Because it's hard to keep track of when the show's live because we change it all the time. We're shifty. We're shifty like that. Let's just bring everybody in, and whoever sucks, I'm just going to kick you out. How's that sound?
Yeah, Saturday's 7 a.m. That's when the show is. I
Yeah,
think.
right.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Welcome to Saturday.
No wonder the turnout's been low.
Welcome to Saturday on Linux Unplugged.
I
Turns
spy
out-
Daniel.
Hello,
Turns out we're just a
Dan.
cartoon.
Good to see you.
We're all a figment of your imagination.
I think it's wasted effort.
I don't hear you though, Dan, but I see you. Maybe he doesn't. You know, since he was probably. I bet he was stepped away. You know, like when you're on hold for a while. Dude, can they hear us when they're in staging?
Yes, and
Okay.
in the join queue, yes, but not in staging.
Oh, not in staging. Yeah, so he has no idea we were just talking about him. He has no idea. He probably went away to go take a leak or get a coffee, and then comes back, and all of a sudden there's these voices coming out of his damn computer. Like, what the hell's
I
that
hate
about?
when that happens.
Well, hello, Mr. Payne. It's good to see you.
Well, good to see you.
Did you enjoy your cow chip cookie? Did you get a chance to consume?
Man, yes.
Hello, Dan.
Welcome.
Hello, Dan.
Oh, you can you hear me now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You sound good. You sound
beautiful.
Yeah. You sound decent at least.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's funny. It's good.
Without becoming a Verizon commercial, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Dan is here reporting from the lines of the format wars. It's been rough for Dan the Rabbit and I. Now, do you hear us, Dan? That'd be a no. This is why we have staging.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm a tad all right. Now, your audio is a little loud, so you might need to go into your audio settings and bring your input down just a hair because it's clipping a little bit.
Just a second.
All the clipping.
No staging today. We're going all in. Screw it.
This is a test of speaks.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, God. It is much better.
All right. Yeah, I'm on Ubuntu right now.
Okay, Wimpy, how are you doing over there?
Well, so long as you can hear me, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm deafening myself with my loop back, and I have no idea why. That's new.
Okay, I cannot hear you guys, but I turned on the live stream for a second, and I could hear. I will obviously hear that, but I'm lagging a lot. I don't know why.
This is Chris from the past. Dan, the live stream's going to be laggy. Wait, he knew that, but he's in the future.
Oh, future
Weird.
Dan.
Future Dan already knew that.
The live stream has a delay because it goes through several servers.
So how do we communicate with Dan in the future when we're stuck in the past? That's
how's that?
We need a wormhole.
He doesn't have a little person with a green plus next to him.
We just act as we normally do, and we're on a double delay.
This is the best pre-show we've ever had.
Well, as long as we get our time machine out of it.
That's true.
Just think of it like messages in a bottle.
I think maybe Discord, good thing this mumble stuff is easy to use. Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. Damn it, I was just...
Where's that mumble Discord bridge everyone's been talking about?
You know...
I thought you were going to encode it.
Why on earth would you want that? You'd have all those nice people talking nicely in Discord, and then these lunatics on Mumble who can't get their audio working bridged into Discord. That would just be horrible for everyone.
Well, that way the free and open source software folks can join us on our proprietary software.
Yeah.
I was being slightly sarcastic.
The problem is everybody sounds better on Discord too, so it's easier and they sound better, which is always that thing that starts to make me go, okay, maybe we're going to have to switch.
I'm interested to see if we could measure that, like with some pest scores or other.
What's that? The audio quality?
Yeah.
Oh, I could tell you by my ears doing it with
but
Joe.
That doesn't draw me grabs. I want grabs.
But I got golden ears.
That's
well,
true.
I used to. I think they're starting to fade. A bit. But
Are you doing your ear exercises every day?
Is that like Kegels or what?
Yeah,
what
pretty much. Yes.
I think the gold started to wear off with all that long hair.
Yeah, I did. That's why I had to go get the haircut.
You're gonna refresh your gold.
There's a lot less gray when I get the haircut too, so there's another perk to getting a cut.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I know, Sir Phobos.
I get a lot more gray when I get my hair cut. A lot more.
Well, it always comes back. Sir, I think maybe part of it is we have the server turned down a bit because that way I don't know exactly. And then Discord, we have it up to we have the bitrate cranked, but it's also they have like super highly available servers that it's super fast. I don't know. I can't explain it to you. All I can explain to you is it sounds better. How do I know what the setting is for our server? Does it tell me if I go in info what our
I'm so confused by this question.
What's that?
What is the Kiwi IRC for Mumble?
Ooh. So we're using 100 kilobits with Opus.
That's more than Discord.
That's more than Discord.
Okay.
Discord tops out at 96.
Yeah.
No.
We were using 96 in Discord. So we are using a higher bit rate in Mumble, and it still sounds worse than Discord.
If you have one of their blessed servers, you can get higher bit rates.
Well, why would you need to? So that's why everybody says Opus sounds so good.
Yeah.
See, I've always heard this, and I'm like, okay, it sounds all right, but it doesn't sound that great. But if you go and listen to it in Discord, it genuinely sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's something we can change with that, or is it
how can this be though?
Versions of the library, or
is it like the version of Opus they're using,
or the implementation, or I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Clearly, there are differences. I don't know how we can dive into them.
I think we're going to switch to Discord. Because one of the things I want to do, I want to talk about this week, is things I want to do to improve the show. And one of them is I want to get audio quality.
Chris, I added you on Discord.
Very nice. I think I probably have a lot of pending
requests. Yeah.
How you doing, Wimpy? Though, is your audio okay? Is it usable, or do you want a few more minutes? I don't mind.
Yeah. If you can hear me, okay, that's fine.
And what about you, Dan? Did we get you back? No, he's still turning it on and off again.
Discord is annoyingly good. I spent a few days using it for the first time over the last like week or so, playing with the Gaming on Linux guys on their Rust server, and it's just like you just drop into the audio thing and it just works, and that's it, done. That's so annoyingly good.
I was just saying on the pre-show a little bit before you got here, Joe and I, since the beginning of LAN, have been using Mumble to do the talkity talk, and then we record locally for the actual show. And one day we were getting like a 3 or 4 second lag on Mumble, and it just wasn't working out based on our two relative locations. And so we said, well, okay, screw it, let's just try Discord. And Joe won't go back. I mean, it's him. He's like he's all in because it's. And he's really picky on audio quality, and he's like, "This sounds nearly good enough that you could ship it." And I think none of us would be too surprised by that, but it is surprisingly better. I thought what I mean to say is I didn't think I'd be too surprised by Discord's audio quality. I thought it'd be like about on par with Mumble, because in Mumble we're at 100 kilobit Opus codec, and in Discord you're limited to 96 kilobits, and yet the Discord implementation still sounded significantly better to both our ears. And so now Joe's like, well, this is what we're using from now on to record LAN.
So weirdly, we're going the other way. So we have strived for 10 years now on Ubuntu Podcast to do our utmost to use free software tools and only produce the podcast on Ubuntu. And that's just our thing, and we do that.
Yep.
And one of the things we've used for a few years is Dropbox to get all the files to one person to do the edit. And we put it all in Dropbox in a shared folder, and whoever's going to do the edit that week, and if they're sick, someone else can pick it up because it's all in the same place, and it's easy for any one of us to pick it up and go through the process and edit the show. But we always use Mumble for audio. But what we're looking at is actually going the other way from you, is replacing Dropbox with something else, and we're looking at various options. But we probably won't do this until next year, because we tend to keep one set of tools for one season and maybe replace them for the next. But Mumble, we found recently we've been getting like a second delay or so, but we found whoever was getting the delay, if they just close the client and open it again, it just fixes it straight away, and that's it. It's
really?
fine. And
I definitely want to keep playing around with Mumble just because I feel like it's part of the show in a way. Like we've been using it for so long that to switch out a major tool like that is like, it's a bigger change, and I think is easy to appreciate at first.
Right. It's not just a tool. There's almost like a culture.
So, Poby, are you guys considering, I mean, you must be like considering like Nextcloud or SyncThing or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to hear what you do.
I hear FTP servers are popular.
That's what Noah has us do.
Mm-hmm.
We just FTP it around.
Hopefully this is SFTP we're talking about.
You are
here.
shitting me.
No.
You seriously use FTP?
Yeah, and that's what Alan uses too.
In 2017.
Both Alan and Noah prefer to use FTP.
I get every episode of BSC now for editing via FTP.
Yep.
Even Debian has stopped using FTP, Chris.
I think that's because BSD can't run things like Dropbox, though.
Now, I do think if you use something like lsyncd to trigger our syncs on like iNotify type events, I think then you can have something that's quite workable for like one-way sync.
How is Alan transmitting them? How does he do it? Is he just dropping them on a share and it's replicating to a data center, or is he FTPing them up as well? Do you know?
Alan's probably using UUCP.
I know the server is in his house. That's all I know.
Yeah, of course it is. Him and his gigabit. He's so funny. I mean, I remember when he got that gigabit connection, and he's like, it's more than my mortgage. Like, yeah, I can understand that. And of course, now he's got a data center in there. Okay, well, I think, except for Dan, which I don't mind. I wonder if Dan's been trying to ping me on Telegram, and here I am just like sitting here yakking my face off.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
So, if you switch to Discord, what about all those configuration that you made on Mumble, like quiet listening, staging, join queue, and so on?
We were just kind of chatting about that. We'd basically have to have like a channel that anyone could join, and a channel then that you would get drug into after you join that room. But I don't know if we'd be able to link like the listening aspect. I really like that aspect of Mumble.
You can do that with the bot.
So I was wondering about if you can even enable some kind of access control lists or something like that on channels.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Essentially, what you would do is you would restrict the on-air channel to certain roles, and then once people they pass the tests in the join queue, they'd get added to that role, and they can join the other channel.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it'd just be a single click.
So would that require a lot of manual work, maybe?
Well, it would depend on how we did it, because some people we could just leave them in that role, and then from that point forward, they could just go right into the on-air room.
Yeah.
which honestly kind of makes sense. Like we should have. That's how there's enough people who contribute regularly. That's just how it should be for them because they've obviously shown up a few times and their stuff works. And if it's not working that one day, we can take a minute before the show.
It's not
and
a huge deal as long as they're present. Yeah.
The other thing that would be just before we change, the other thing about switching to Discord that would be particularly nice for this show is then we open up a lot of different. We have a few different options, not a lot, but we have a few different solid options on integrating with OBS. Depending on how we do it, we could do things like overlay of who's speaking, so that way if you're watching the video version, the name of the person in the Discord room who's actively speaking would show up on screen, which would be huge because there's a lot of people that are disconnected from the voices because voices come and go. And there's other things.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, and there's other things we could do. There's other perks we could integrate and stuff like that would be really nice. So on top of it being easier to use and on top of it possibly sounding better, from a production upgrade standpoint, being able to attribute who's speaking on screen would be particularly nice too.
Oh yeah,
that's a great feature. Yeah.
Dan's back in the join queue.
There's also the fact that we have a lot more people in the community on Discord than on Mumble, so we could have some regular community members do some of the stuff like the join queue.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit of an unfair comparison because Mumble is one of those things you only open when you want to be in the show, whereas Discord is one of those things you just leave open all the time.
Some folks that are in
and Discord has multi-server support, which Mumble doesn't.
Right.
So in Discord, you leave Discord open because I'm chatting in some other random server.
Right.
I'm not actually chatting in the JB server, so I look like I'm online.
It could be good or bad, but as JJ is pointing out in the chat room, Discord also has a functional mobile client. Which, depending on how that audio is, could be good or bad. But that's not really. There's a couple for Android, but the one on iOS just is really awful, just really ass. I've tried it once.
What, the
Chris and all. Hopefully the mic's okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think for mobile, it's less about the mobile client for Discord, but more about the mobile environment. And you hearing, someone's headset microphone rubbing against their shirt and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
So, which is not a software problem.
So, Dan, how's it working now?
I think it's working. Is it working?
You sound awesome.
Good job.
Sick.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Are you using that newfangled elementary OS I've heard so much about?
Okay, so I was on the experimental Artful build that is super unstable, and so every time I open Mumble, it would just destroy my session. It would just crash.
Oh man.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I came back to stable, and everything works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that a yes? You are
Yes.
on?
Yeah.
Glad we sorted that.
I just like to point out 1 week away from release, and I'm using Ubuntu Mate 17.10.
Oh, boom!
Just fine.
Whoa! Oh, shots fired! Shots fired!
I'm on Ubuntu proper 17.10. It's working just fine.
There we go.
I think there's some kind of issue with Mutter API changes, maybe, because we just got 3.26.1 pulled in, right?
Yep.
So we
That's
probably
not
have
unheard
to.
of.
We probably have to catch up on some API change that.
Yeah, you're
did
doing all the
something.
heavy lifting at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm over here using this legacy Unity desktop.
Yeah. No. That's GNOME.
Me too.
That's
I'm using
GNOME
that.
set up to look like Unity.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really good, then.
It is, isn't it? All right, so we're gonna talk about that. Hold on, I'm gonna use a little girl's room, and then I'll be ready to start.
Get out of here.
I did not. I couldn't even tell.
You guys are gonna laugh, but I'm on GNOME too.
Nah, not laughing.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird, but what the hell?
So is anybody using i3?
No, I don't know jack about i3. I don't even want to know.
Yeah, I feel like I love myself too much to use i3.
i3, I had a bad experience with it. I'm not going to even go back.
Oh yeah, look at that. Ubuntu 17.10.
Look at that.
I don't know, guys. Tiling's definitely the future.
You might say that tiling is awesome.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I've been using it for 2 years.
I see what you did there, Rikai.
Okay, so we should start now. Sorry about the delay, everybody.
Chris, you missed my announcement that I'm back on GNOME 2, man.
GNOME 2?
Yes, my friend.
How is this achieved? How is
Red
this?
Hat.
You'll find out during the broadcast,
God.
man.
Jeez.
It's on Gen 2, by the way.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I bought that it was sent away. I bought that. I thought it was like he got me.
He's living like a retro life. He's compiling everything. He's on GNOME 2. He doesn't have any System D.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it is with System D, but it is GNOME 2.
Wait a minute. You have D on Gen 2?
Yes, my friend.
I am confused. You got GNOME 2 and System D on Gen 2. Everything I thought I understood and knew in life has been just upside down right now.
I feel like maybe we should do a Gen 2 review.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's coming. Yeah, haven't you heard? Yeah, we're working on that.
Well, that's why I wasn't here last week. I was compiling.
Right, of course.
We got to give you time
I'm
for
willing to
compiling.
talk about my install if you guys want. I don't care.
All right. Well, hold on to it now. We got a lot of. We got a lot of. Hold on now. Hold on. We got a lot of pipeline.
We got what you might call a packed show.
But we do have we do need something for the post show. I tell you what.
I'll talk about it after the thing there.
You know, there is a weird thing. If anybody that was involved with Snap packages was listening and wanted to try something, see if they can reproduce this. Caster soundboard might be a good test subject. There is this weird problem that I only experience when it's a Snap, and that is when I go to create a new soundboard or open a soundboard, there is this massive hit to I/O on my Linux box, where my whole Linux box comes to a grinding halt for a really long time. Maybe I would even say as long as 15, 20 seconds. And then once the grid for the Caster soundboard with the like the files or whatever has been loaded, everything comes right back. It doesn't do this on the non-Snap version.
Can you send me like a tarball of the home directory, Snap Caster Soundboard directory, and the version of Caster Soundboard you're using, and I'll try and reproduce it here.
Yes. I would try to remember to do that. Let's see, what version? I'm using version 1.0. Hey, look at me. And I'm on Solus, if that...
Okay, I'm not convinced that'll make a difference.
No, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Don't worry. I'll look at it tomorrow if you send that tarball over.
Alrighty.
Amazing.
Now, I think everything's in the upright position, so please fasten your seatbelts. And once we get going, the steward and stewardess will be down the... do you guys call them stewardesses over there? Is that what you're... Flight attendant? I guess you can't. You flight
cabin
attendants.
crew.
The cabin crew will be down with the peanuts shortly. So stand by. Here we go. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. What's that? Oh, look at you with the ha. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 218 for Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. Oh, welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's been carrying around multiple laptops for weeks. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
And hello, Beardsley.
Hey, how's it going?
So, guys, we have a pretty great show today. Finally gonna get to sit down and review the Librem 15, the latest and greatest from Purism, which kind of the timing sort of perfect because also there's some big news around the funding for Librem 5. So we'll be taking a look at one of their products that initially was a crowdfunder at just the moment that the Librem 5 hit its crowdfunding goal. Very interesting to see where something like this they've worked on a couple of years. Where are they at? How far did they get after they had a couple of years to work on something? Also, really, really big community news that I want to cover this week, and we're gonna roll out an experimental new segment as part of that community news. Controversial, the Beard tells me. Prepare to be flamed, the Beard warns me. Didn't you? He did.
I did.
Yeah. So we will roll out a new corner of the show this week to talk about something that's here, it's real, and we're all dealing with it. And it's spelt with a lowercase d. That'll be coming up in a little bit. And then after all of that, if time permits, this show is in a special moment right now. It is 32 episodes away from 250. And why do you say that matters? Why does that matter? Is that what you might be wondering? Why does that matter, right?
Isn't that just a number?
Yeah, well, it is. And I couldn't wait till 300. That's why it mattered. So 250 is just 32 episodes away. And it is time for some changes.
We're switching to haiku.
Boom. So if you're a fan of this show, following the show for a while, I encourage you to stick around towards the end of the show. We'll talk a little bit about some of the changes that could be coming down the road around episode 250. So we'll give you a long time to digest it all. But never fear, I think it's all for the better. But before we go any further, we got to cover some community news, and there is one order of business that we must take care of before we go there. And that's bringing in our virtual lug. Time-appropriate greetings. Mamba Room.
Hello.
Whoa.
Hello.
Hello.
Jeez.
Hello.
Well, I'm like William Shatner getting thrown across his bridge right now with
We
that
got some excited people.
They're fired up and ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm fired up about. One of the projects that has one of the worst names in recent history but is so damn useful, FW Update. Firmware update, FW Upd, just hit version 1.0. Now, this is that special little bit of magic that's a lot of good software, but also a lot of really great partnerships and relationships that have resulted in Linux users getting firmware updates to critical pieces of hardware in their machine via software updates, like any modern desktop system does in 2017. And they just hit version 1.0. Since they've started the project, they've basically re-architected the way the entire daemon works. They've reimagined how the metadata is downloaded and managed. They've changed core ways of the way things themselves are done with the upgrades. They now support 72 different kinds of hardware, with support for another dozen or so currently being worked on. And lots of vendors are now using the LVFS project to distribute firmware. Now, LVFS project stands for the Linux Vendor Firmware Project. Every month, 165,000 plus devices get updated.
Nice.
Using FW Update. Now that is
some good progress.
Yeah. Dell, as you might know if you've followed some of our coverage here on this network, has been a huge supporter, they write, since the early days. Now smaller companies like Logitech are also supporting the project. And he also gives a shout out to his employer Red Hat, who's given him the resources and infrastructure and some of the political handshaking that has been needed that he said literally no one else would have given him. And he's extremely grateful. So this is huge. This is one of those little bits of software that doesn't have a really flashy name. You know, if this was something that like Macs didn't have, and then all of a sudden they got this feature, they would give it some sort of great name like Active Firmware Updates or something. Like it would have some sort of publicity name, and it would be a feature in the OS that this version of the OS finally supports. But in Linux land, it just slowly gets rolled out. And one day when you're on a Linux machine and you run GNOME Software Center and you go to updates, you see there's a firmware update. And you click it and you just installed your firmware update. And you don't think about the fact that you didn't have to go download an exe from their horrible drivers website. You didn't have to go find some weird version of FreeDOS or something like that.
Man.
Like it just worked. And that's why this project's so great. And it's really great to see them hit version 1.0.
And there's a lot of devices on that list. You should go check. Tons of Dell things. The Color Hug, the Logitech Unifying Receiver, which a lot of people probably use. Like that's awesome. I'm hopeful that Dell gets support for this on some of their servers at some point, because I think that would be handy. Sure, there's usually like IPMI or other ways to do it, but it'd be awesome to be able to do it just from your regular old operating system.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a segment that I want to roll out, a corner, if you will.
It's for people who like to mess with computers.
Now, I'm going to call this the Systemd corner. And
the value of this is negative.
I apologize if you're not a Systemd fan. I understand. It is a bit of a complex beast. But it is the reality in which we find ourselves today, and there have been some interesting developments in Systemd land, and I thought since most of us are going to be running a version of Linux that uses it, maybe we should know what those things are. So we now dive into the complex and inspired world of Systemd, and there's some new features, Wes. There's some really nice new features. I highlighted a few, like one I thought that was particularly neat was dynamic users, which is coming to Systemd 235, and you can now configure Systemd to dynamically allocate Unix user IDs for service processes when they start, and then they release the user ID when it stops them. It's pretty secure, and it mixes well with transient services. It works with socket-activated services and with service templating. So instead of having to have user accounts sitting around that could be exploited, user accounts created, the UID that is necessary is created. When the service is done, it's destroyed.
The other part I like about this is not necessarily just the dynamic users thing, but they talk a lot about the methods that you have available with Systemd. Like, all right, it runs as a dynamic user, and then you can pick and choose either temporary or permanent places on the file system to give it write access to, and it won't be able to write outside of that, which there's a ton of things I can think, like, much like snaps do in some ways, where you're just like, you need to save your data in your spot. I will go fetch it when I need it. Don't touch anything else in my home dir.
Now, there's something else that they've added that I didn't even really think about until I saw it as a feature, and I'm like, oh, geez, I can't believe we didn't have this. So systemd analyze has gained new verbs like get log level and get log target, which will print the logging level and the target of the system manager, which is, if you think about what they're saying here, is now you can ask the system what level in which are you logging at. And you could not ask the system that before this necessarily, but more so than that, they're going to be able to expose this to like GNOME logs up in the GUI level, so you'll be able to open up your local desktop log manager and see your system is currently logging at this level right now, which that is kind of like one of those. I'm surprised we didn't have those features. And then here's another one in that category. For each service unit, or for each time a service is restarted, there'll be a counter that is now kept. So you can keep track of how often the service restarts. It's increased each time the service is restarted. And you'll be able to query it like systemctl show -p number of restarts for service X. And you can see if your Nginx daemon is restarting constantly, and you get an idea of how many times that's happened, which I think is just going to be really great information. But then last but not least, before we get out of the corner, you noticed a little something about kind of a clever way that systemd murders people's system processes. And
murders them good.
It really does, because it does it in a way where they don't make a big fuss, and then it can just go and clean house after that. I don't want to steal your thunder because you found this one, but I thought this was pretty great. The way I guess they use SigStop before a real signal before it gets any other signals, the process gets any other signals that would prevent it from closing. Like, so before it can lock up because it got another signal, they send it a SigStop. The process suspends, and then you can go in and you can just tell it all to die right there on the spot. And the ones that don't die, they'll come back, they'll get woken up, and then you can generally go back and clean them up in a loop and kill them again. It seems like it was just a really simple kind of way to sort of kill processes, and I thought, okay, well, that was you put it in the Slack, so I didn't mean to steal it, but what did you like?
No, I think it's just good to see the implementation of
something
what's
simple
going on
for a common problem.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm doing it again, but that's what it was. It was something simple for system, where otherwise we attribute systemd as this huge monster, and this was just a really clean, plain, simple way to do something.
Right, like there's plenty of things systemd does wrong. I will not try to say that it's this perfect piece of software or anything like that. But when they do things right, or if there's something interesting, it's interesting to see. And I have not dived that deep into the internals, so it's cool to see like a filtered version, a look inside.
Yeah.
So something that I've noticed that you guys didn't mention. There's also systemd run gained support for a new pipe command, which allows you to invoke arbitrary processes as systemd services. So you get all the benefits of systemd, like the systemd logging, while still allowing them to be integrated into the classic Unix shell pipeline.
Fascinating. That is a good catch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you can like spin up a pipeline, give it like a temporary working dir to store all of its stuff, logs to the journal, and then have it all disappear as a user that no longer exists.
There you go. So, okay. Everybody okay? Did everybody make it? Did you survive?
I'm in a cold sweat now, but let's just carry on.
All right, and that concludes our systemd corner. I thought
we're going to need a theme for this.
I know.
Or some music.
I'm just hacking it together as we go right now. But I thought somebody screaming about doing only one job sort of was appropriate for systemd, because it's sort of a, Okay, so
almost too appropriate.
Yeah, it was kind of ironically appropriate. So before we run, Mr. Wes Payne and I had a chance to go to Siegel last week actually, and Wes even had a talk there, which
right.
I attended, and this was my first time going to Siegel. It's in Seattle at the Seattle Central College, and it ran this last weekend, and a lot of our friends are there.
Oh yeah,
Valerie from the Ubuntu WA in Oregon, and KDE. I think she actually is probably with KDE. She was there. Ian from System 76 was there as well, and he gave a talk as well as he sat at a booth. And it was not a huge event. In fact, it sort of hit that sweet spot. If you want something that's not a very, very large production, but still has really interesting, informative talks, it sort of nails that. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, so while Wes was giving a talk on Clojure, there was also a talk on how to set up like a KeePass setup with your own private sync and encrypted backup. And then in another room, there was a talk about how to wire an automated chicken door using a Raspberry Pi. And like those were the talks that were all going on at once, and that gives you sort of it is like that all day. And almost every talk there was something like, I would really like to go to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you gave one.
Yeah.
What did you think? What was that process like for you? Was that your first talk at a Linux event?
At a Linux event, yes. I've given other talks, but at a Linux event, yes. It was a lot of fun. It was super easy when I was submitting and preparing and saying like, oh, do I want to try to give one here? All the people in their IRC room, the people volunteers, the people running it, super nice, super helpful. Really, it's just a great conference. I'm glad to have been a part. I'm glad to have gone to GON this year. And I hope you're right. It wasn't super huge, but I thought they got a good array. Like there's a lot of speakers from not in this area. Microsoft was represented. IBM had several people there. As you said, System 76. So I think it's an up and comer. Hopefully something to watch. And it feels like Seattle's a big enough tech hub with enough tech people and companies there that it makes sense for a Linux type event like this to exist. So it sounds like this year went great. I hope that keeps going.
Yeah, I found it to be a little smaller scale than like a Linux Fest. It was more like probably a crowd of 400 or 500.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and it was the venue was a school, Seattle Central College, and it was in session. So at certain times you were walking around the hallways with college students going between rooms, which not quite my thing, but not bad either. A little chaotic, but not bad.
I guess they had to do some rescheduling too. There was like an HVAC problem, so they had to change some of the rooms that they were using near the last minute. I don't know if that played a role.
There's always complications like that. But either way, a nice group of people, nice group of talks, definitely worth the travel if you're in the area. So yeah, I'll probably go back for a bit next year too. I got to meet up with a few Jupiter Broadcasting listeners, so that was cool. I like that. And then
the year I went, the fire alarm went off, so you guys lucked out.
Really?
Ouch.
And then after it was all done, Wes and I went to Angela's family diner.
Oh, that was a ton of fun.
Yeah. So we went down to Planet Java Diner and we got chicken strips. Wes and I were adorable and got chicken strips together.
Twinsies.
Yeah, we totally went twinsies on lunch. And then you know what? We went and got cookies. So it was actually all around a pretty good time.
Did you guys share a milkshake?
No. But those cookies are worth getting. They're super, super good. So yeah, Seagull was a good event. The Seattle area is good. If you can make it out, maybe go next year. Maybe. And now we look forward, my friends. Now we look forward. So there's many things to chat about. So let's take a moment and thank Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Go to linux.ting.com to sign up, and that's where you'll get $25 off a device or $25 in service credit if you bring a device. Check their BYOD page, because over there they'll list all the devices that are compatible, and you'll be impressed with the list because they have a CDMA network and a GSM network. They have a really well-designed dashboard where it gives you a quick access to your minutes, your messages, or your megabytes, whatever you've used, or you could turn a line off, or you could turn a line on and just use only text, or only use data, or only use phone. Like, you have all these really different granular levels of control. You can set usage alerts. You can name the line, so you don't have to go by the numbers, but you can go by like a easy to know alias, and then that shows up across like the mobile apps too. It's really sophisticated. Now, here's the nice thing about a $25 service credit. See, your average Ting line is going to be around $23, $24 a month. And that's after your minutes and your messages and your megabytes are added up and the $6 for the line. You're still going to be around this pretty low price point. So if you get a $25 service credit, it's going to pay for more than your first month. I really, really like that, because that's what happened to me. And that experience, that made me a Ting customer for life. And, of course, they've got devices you can buy directly. Like I said, you can bring your own. And if you're watching their Twitter page, and you can find that at Ting FTW on Twitter, you'll see that they're giving away 2 gigabytes of data right now. If you add a line to your Ting account, you'll get 2 gigs of free data. So if you're already a Ting customer, check that out. If you're not, go to linux.ting.com, linux.ting.com, and a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Unplugged program, linux.ting.com, nationwide coverage with no contracts and no early termination fees.
Whoa.
Linux.ting.com. So you found this really great, I think you found this really great, unless the beard found it. I'm sorry if I'm misattributing, but this really great app called Tor Proxy, which uses NetFilter hooks in the Linux kernel to route all of your network traffic to the Tor network. It uses NetFilter hooks, and then it just makes sure that all of your outbound traffic that, of course, the kernel would be responsible for anyways, gets routed to the Tor network. Now, here's a major limitation. It only supports IP4 traffic, and it's TCP IP4, so no UDP fancy shenanigans, no IPv6, and no pings, no ICMP pings.
Get those out of here.
Yeah, get those out of here. But this is a pretty neat thing. Could you give me a use case for this, Wes? Give me your best spy use case for this. Like, what do you got? Like an always secure Linux box? As soon as you turn it on, the kernel routes all your traffic to Tor? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean that, or maybe you're using you have a virtual machine, or you have like a laptop with no OS that you boot this up, you load the module, you make sure that at no time are you going to be able to send packets out there except through Tor.
Yeah.
Or you want to run an application over Tor that doesn't support proxies inside of the application.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I bet you that'd be a big use case. Yeah, Tor proxy, and it's a kernel module, which who doesn't love loading a good kernel module?
I like how simple it is. It only has 4 arguments.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
Good. I was going to say I like that they tested against kernel 3.16, so I'm like, oh, okay. But what are the arguments?
Well, you have -s, which is to insert the module and start the proxy.
Sure.
You have -i, which is just to insert the module. You have -r, which is to remove the module, and you have -t, which is to refresh the relay tables.
That's pretty simple.
Yep. That's it.
I can get behind that. That's how you build your ultimate secure box. Somebody make a live CD that does that.
The downside is the proxy must be run as root, and Tor must be running. So you are putting something network enabled on root.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a downside. I also noticed that, like, if you want to get to any hidden services, you're still going to have to use a Tor browser to do that.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of expected. So I saw a question on our Linux. And I know I've had offline conversations with Wimpy about this, but I figured it might be on the minds of a lot of listeners out there. And I did see it show up on our Linux, so I thought, well, let's talk about this for a moment. And maybe, Wimpy, you could chime in and share as much as you'd like. I just want to find a game, or a name, is the person's handle on Reddit. Why did Compiz die? I don't understand. People act like Compiz archaic, or maybe it's gimmicky and buggy, but that hasn't been my experience at all. I don't really understand why it's gone away. I liked GNOME Shell, but I like Compiz much, much more. I'm actually going to jump to XFCE and load Compiz, and I don't understand why more people and more distros haven't done this. So, Wimpy, how did Compiz, and why is Compiz dead? And is it dead?
Well, no, Compiz isn't dead. There's effectively 2 strands of Compiz that are being actively maintained right now. There is Compiz 0.9, which is the Compiz you'll find in Ubuntu, for example, and that's the C++ re-implementation. So it was forked from the 0.8 branch. A whole load of stuff was reworked, and all of the plugins that are available there were also made to work with EGL, so they work on things like ARM devices and what have you. And then you have Compiz Reloaded, which is based on the 0.8 branch, so pre the C++ re-implementation, and has a wider selection of plugins available, but not all of those are available for EGL, and both of those projects are alive and well. Ubuntu Mate ships Compiz 0.9 by default. Obviously, Ubuntu 16.04 is shipping Compiz because that's where a lot of the Unity functionality is exposed. And I think I'm right in saying that the Fedora Mate spin comes with Compiz Reloaded.
Oh, so, it's funny because Veritunda makes the obvious joke in the room. And you're right, Veritunda. Everybody, when you say Compiz, you think of things like cubes or or the aquarium.
My windows don't wiggle anymore.
Wiggly windows, wobbly windows.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got no taste, then those things are turned on by default.
Then Linux is the place to be.
If you're actually using Compiz for feature enhancement, then maybe Compiz is used a little bit more sensibly and tastefully.
Yeah, that's always why I've liked it, is because it always gave my system this feeling like it was keeping up with me. Like the smoothness to the window draws and movements to the windows, and the fact that maybe my disk might be busy, but the windows would still render rather cleanly and smoothly. To me, that was always the draw to Compiz.
I think my favorite Compiz feature was actually, it was my first experience with live previews in your alt tab menu.
Oh yeah.
Good
Yeah.
point, Beard.
Yeah,
Wow.
and also like hover over the icon and see like a preview of your minimized window
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
window peeking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
there is some genuinely useful functionality in Compiz, and if you're using a desktop environment which is using X, then it's a great way to get, in most cases, a tear-free experience. And also, in my experience, I've been working on Compiz for just over 2.5 years now. I don't find it to be buggy or crashy. You often see throwaway comments, in the various
Or it steals a lot of frames per
forums.
second or memory.
Oh, it's it's crashy and it's buggy. Well, I don't see that. I use it all day, all the live long day for years, and I don't think I've ever seen Compiz actually crash on me. It's usually something else that causes a disastrous failure. It's not Compiz.
I'm inclined to agree. My main machine is a 1604 machine, so it's Unity 7 Compiz based. But Compiz, I don't even think about Compiz on a daily basis. I don't really think about Unity 7 on a daily basis. It's just the thing that puts Windows on my screen. And I tend to leave my machine on all the time, and I get quite decent uptime without my desktop dying in any way, shape or form. So yeah, that might have been the case some time ago, and there may have been some instability when Compiz 0.8 transitioned over to C++ in the 0.9 and the early days of Unity plugin. But these days, I don't see it being anywhere near as crashy as people say. In fact, before I joined this Hangout, I was playing a 3D accelerated game via Steam on one display while displaying other stuff on 2 other displays, and everything just worked perfectly, and I didn't get any rendering issues or crashing at all. It's just expected that it just works, and it does. In 2017 it does.
Yeah, I've really had no problem with it. We have a machine here in the studio running Unity 7 on the last LTS release, and I never think about Compiz. I never give it 2 thoughts. The only thing I ever think about is the interface always seems fairly responsive. And I appreciate that aspect of the computer.
Yeah, definitely.
It gives me some pause though. Now that I think about this, because you've all just made really great points. Comp is still maintained. It technically does something superior that we all enjoy. And while we have projects out there like KWin, which are great projects, I still find projects like Compiz to still have a considerable amount of value, specifically for me in how I use Linux. Just for me personally, I like using a desktop with Compiz. And I wish
you and millions of other people.
I wish there was a way to have that with GNOME 3. Because that's what I'm going to miss, I think, the most about the transition for the Ubuntu desktop. That was always one of the things I liked the most, is when I would load up a Unity 7 Ubuntu desktop, which I didn't use very often, but when I loaded it, I was always like, gosh, this thing is smooth and polished. And I think Compiz played that role. And I admit I'm a little biased at the moment, because just before we went on air, GNOME 3 crashed and we lost audio on our live stream again. And we're back to having GNOME 3 crashes after weeks of things working great, and we've made no software changes at all, and yet we're now back to having GNOME 3 crashes. So I do admit I'm a little...
Right. But let's not get rose-tinted spectacles. When Ubuntu switched to Unity, it was pretty fraught, and Unity in the early days and Compiz in the early days was pretty unstable.
Yeah,
and
I guess I feel like I've gone through that, though. I don't really feel like doing that again.
Right, well, you don't have to, because the 1710 release is an interim release. There's no reason why you as a normal user, I don't mean you, Chris, as a podcaster and a tech journalist.
Right.
I mean, a normal user would have to upgrade to 1710. They might do it out of curiosity, and they might run it in a VM or on a spare laptop, but there's no obligation to run it.
Sure.
Other than curiosity. So
fair enough.
Wait for the 1804 release when things are a bit more stable, and the upstream GNOME developers have had a ton of bugs filed by quite a few Ubuntu users who are enthusiastic and do want to try this stuff early. But I think when you get to 1804, I think given that Unity 7 has stabilized over the last 3 years, 4 years or so, you picture where we'll be with GNOME Shell in, I don't know, the 2020 LTS release. Just think how rock solid that 2020 release. I know that's quite a hard picture for some people to grasp, but think how stable that's going to be. And that's effectively where we are with Unity 7.
That's a good point. And that is the nice aspect about LTSs and the fact that there's many other desktops out there. we do have. There are other islands we can hop to, and time does seem to heal these wounds. So while we're talking about the march towards 1804, I noticed that the Ubuntu Mate project has a very interesting announcement. In fact, some of my friends on Twitter seem to be rather excited about this too. Ubuntu Mate will be pioneering a snap pre-installed. So when you install Ubuntu Mate 17.10, there will be a snap pre-installed. And it looks like it's going to be the Pulse Audio Mixer. Wimpy, can you tell me a bit about this?
Yeah, I can. So as of yesterday, I believe, that landed. So you were at the Ubuntu Rally, and this was one of the outcomes of the Ubuntu Rally, which was how do we put the last pieces in place so that it's possible to ship a snap pre-installed by default in the ISO images. And I was approached as Ubuntu Mate to sort of sound me out to see if we'd be able to do this and work on this so that we could learn some lessons and feed that back to the Ubuntu desktop team proper, so they've got sight of how things have gone and what we've learned in readiness for 1804. So we've chosen to ship the Pulse Mixer application by default, which is a console-based mixer for Pulse. And in fact, when I was fumbling with my audio earlier, it was actually that I used to sort my volume levels out, because it's quite fine-grained in what it can do. So that's now pre-installed by default on the daily images. So we've got a post over at community.ubuntu.com, which is a call for testing for anyone who's interested in Ubuntu, not necessarily Ubuntu Mate, to come and grab the daily images and test it and make sure that Pulse Mixer application is working correctly.
So there's a lot to what you just said, and this is remarkable. So there's a lot a listener could infer based on this conversation, so I think we should be pretty clear. You say you're shipping a snap in Ubuntu Mate in preparation for 1804. Now, if I were an alarmist, I'd say that means that 1804, everything's going to be snap. That's not what's happening here, right?
No, there's no plans for everything to be a snap in 1804. Although, if there was a new flavour to crop up where everything being a snap made sense, then that would be possible. There could be some interesting use cases for this sort of thing, like Ubuntu Kodi, for example. You could have an Ubuntu Kodi distribution where Kodi is provided as a snap and is permanently upgraded to the latest stable release, even though that you're on an LTS that's running for 5 years, unchanging, but the core application moves on top. That would be quite a nice way to do this.
Yeah,
or an Ubuntu kiosk that has just like the base install and a browser. And that's it, and the networking stack and everything is nicely confined, so someone coming up to use that kiosk knows that nothing else is going to infringe upon the data that they're saving at that time.
So why Pulse Audio Mixer or Pulse Mixer, and what does having it installed by default? What kind of value does that have?
Right. Well, the particular reason that this application has been chosen is because until it was a snap, there was no easy way to install this on Debian and Ubuntu, because this application has never been in the Debian or Ubuntu archives before. And in fact, it was Popey spotted what's called an ITP on the Debian mailing lists. An ITP is an intent to package, and that was a request by somebody to say, package this software for Debian and Ubuntu. So in the 2 weeks that have elapsed since that ITP post, a snap has been created. It's in the Snap Store for the appropriate archives, and the necessary support to embed snaps in ISO images has been added to the build infrastructure, and now we're shipping a snap by default, which is an interesting story when you think about what we've heard about projects like Nextcloud and software that's frozen in archives, and how that causes maintenance issues for developers and all the rest of it, and that the time that they have to wait before the next version gets into the archive. So there's a very interesting story here about a fast moving piece of software that is now being deployed by default in an ISO image, and the speed at which that's being done. And this implementation isn't complete at the moment. So at the moment, it's kind of tightly coupled with the live build, system. What we're going to be doing is exposing this in the usual way that people that make Ubuntu flavors are used to for what's called seeding packages that go in their live image. And I see on the Ubuntu Community Hub, the Ubuntu Budgie team have replied and said, they were interested in doing this and they wanted some more details about how this was done, because they have a number of snaps that they would be interested in shipping by default in Ubuntu Budgie.
And what do you learn by having something like this installed? Because it's not just a matter of making it available to install, which I could do now, but there is got to be value in a certain amount of user base having this installed by default.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. Oh, goodness, I've just broken something. The first is that, the build infrastructure has to be able to install this snap into the ISO as it's being constructed. And it's not just the snap, of course, because the snap sits on top of the core snap as well. So the core snap is being shipped by default in Ubuntu Mate 17.10 now, which normally what happens is the first time you install a snap, the core snap gets installed as well. So the core snap and this snap are shipped by default. And what we'll do is sometime after the release, we'll push out an update to Pulse Mixer, and we'll be able to make sure that all of the back-end infrastructure is geared up appropriately to cope with that demand for updating all of those systems. So there's some back-end soak testing being conducted as well.
That makes a lot of sense.
But it was super critical that we choose something nice and small that doesn't have a super big impact on the size of the ISO image, but also is a useful utility. We don't want to just throw shovelware on the ISO. We wanted to put something on there that's actually quite useful, and Pulse Mixer is actually a kind of useful thing to like open a terminal, type Pulse Mixer, and have a nice little thing that you can use to adjust the levels on your microphone and your speakers and your headset and all that kind of stuff. It's actually a cool tool. So it fulfills like all of the requirements for putting something on the CD.
Think Pavu Control, but for the console.
I was just wanting that.
Yep,
so I think I'll be snap installing this later today.
We're making an official pick of the show today. Yeah, go check it out. It's Pulse Mixer, and you can get it as a snap too, which I guess would be what? Snap search Pulse Mixer if you want to see the entry.
Snap install Pulse Mixer, Snap info Pulse Mixer, both of those work. Yeah.
There you go. And then if you look at like the screenshot here on the Ubuntu community page, you can see that you can individually control the volume of particular Chrome tabs too, which that's pretty cool. And then Mumble and individual applications. Also, you'll see that Wimpy has a Scarlett USB analog, which I approve. I like that. good audio
I love
interface.
that. It's great audio interface. Yeah,
that's what we're talking on right now. Actually, we are talking on one of those. It's not the only one we have, but that's the one on this machine. Well, fascinating. So, I suppose this is really early days, but my last question might be, what are your thoughts on sharing what's discovered?
Well, I think that will be some months from now before before we see enough users installing Ubuntu Mate and having this snap pre-registered on people's machines, and then we'll push an update out. And what's interesting is the plan for the update is to push out a version of the snap that's actually smaller than the snap that's being deployed on the ISO image.
I don't know if did we talk much about that? Did we talk much about that on the show? That was another thing that kind of came up at the Ubuntu rally that was a rather impressive piece of work. And I don't want to steal the thunder, but it sounds like there could be kind of a big change coming to the size of snaps.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I think, actually, if Daniel's here, it was actually one of the elementary applications that saw the biggest reduction in that whole exercise.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It was, it was really interesting, because we're digging into the idea of the platform snap, right? And trying to make sure that the size of the snaps were comparable to their deb package equivalents, right? And because we're kind of sticklers about that kind of stuff, and we kept poking and going, can it get smaller? Can't it get just a little bit smaller? And Ken was just furiously typing, okay, maybe if we did this and did that, and we finally poked him enough that he found a hidden off by default option that just drastically reduces the size of snaps.
Really?
The really cool thing was Ken found it via the KDE developers who were also there at the rally. It was actually one of the KDE developers, Scarlett, who's been going like a machine, snapping all the KDE apps. There's loads of them been pushed in the store. And she said, oh, yeah, you want this option, and this will make your snaps much smaller. She passed that on to Ken, and then that little word of mouth thing made all the snaps much smaller. Not just the elementary ones, but all the gnome ones as well. It was great.
Yeah, significantly smaller, which is...
yeah, I think in the case of... was it Vocal that was being snapped at the time, Daniel?
No, we were actually just doing the calculator. We were trying to start simple.
Was it. Yeah, and the calculator. I think it was something like 9 meg, and then this change was made, and it was 136K.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite the diet. That is really
good work.
That's something like that should just make it across Mark's desk at some point. Like if nothing else, you can say, well, we can take that away from the Ubuntu rally, Mark. We got that because you could make, that's a good bullet point. Well, good work, gentlemen. Curious to see where this goes, and of course the timeline's rather obvious, I suppose, because this is all an effort to collect data for 1804, in a sense, to determine how far you go. So I guess, in a sense, like, you're going to have to kind of turn this thing around in a few months, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the plans of the desktop team are, but you will have seen that Ken, as we've just discussed, Ken has been snapping a number of the GNOME desktop applications, and other members of the desktop team have been doing the same. It may well be that some of those applications ship as snaps in 1804, and you have an LTS with rolling applications sitting on top.
And the thing that's interesting here is there's this popular meme in the community that snaps are only for IoT and server and don't work for desktop apps, and Ken is totally proving that wrong in multiple ways. Like the snap daemon that runs on 1804 next year is the same snap daemon that runs on 1604 that was released a year ago, and that's the same snap daemon that was available for 1404 that was 3 years ago. So he can put one GNOME application, 3.26 GNOME application, in the store, and that same snap works on 1804, 1604, and 1404. The exact same application, packaged once, runs on multiple LTSs and non-Ubuntu systems as well. That is an epic win.
Well, there you go. I guess we should probably move forward. But I guess this is all really, I'm going to say this. What the bigger picture is that 1710 is now days away, and a lot of the stuff is falling into place, and that's really the meta story around all of this. And I'm going to give a plug to the last 2 episodes of Ask Noah. You got to check those out if you are not a routine listener of his show. First of all, he's been killing it recently, and second of all, he has 2 interviews that are split across episode 29 and episode 28. And start with 28, and it's an interview. I maybe Martin or Popey, if you know the name of the developer that Noah was interviewing, but
it's Jerry Boland.
Thank you. He had a great interview with Jerry, and it talks a lot about Canonical's thoughts around Wayland and how to implement it correctly, where Mir could still have a very real role, especially for smaller desktop projects, and what the hell happens if 1710 ships Wayland by default and it blows up in everybody's face? What happens then? All of that is in episode 28 and then in episode 29 of the Ask Noah show. And so good additional background information as we get really close to the 1710 release. But I can go ahead.
I can hear you wanting to wrap up this Ubuntu stuff.
I know there's one more thing we want to get to, so go ahead.
There is, yes. Yeah.
It's all yours. You have the floor.
Well, Popey, you've been doing a lot of the legwork on this.
Popey, you have the floor. You have the floor, Popey.
So, as you mentioned, Chris, it's a few days away from the 1710 release, and it turns out that the Ubuntu project kicks out a ton of ISO images. It's not just Ubuntu with GNOME. There's all the flavors as well. There's that little known one called Ubuntu Mate, and then there's all the other really big ones as well. Ubuntu, Lubuntu, Kubuntu, Ubuntu Studio. There's just tons. And we need some help from our community to help us test those. And we would really love it if people could join us on Monday. We're having a hangout on Monday, 1500 UTC, I think it is. where myself and Martin are going to go through all you need to do to download the ISO images, get these things booted up on a machine in a USB stick, test that stuff out, report bugs, let us know what's busted so that we can get that stuff fixed. Now, we're not saying it will get fixed for release, which is next Thursday, the 19th of October, but we'll certainly get stuff queued up for immediately after release if it's super critical. So yeah, join me and Martin. If you go to Ubuntu On Air, there's a nice little YouTube video you can watch next Monday on the 16th of October at 1500 UTC.
So that's the URL to go to, is ubuntuonair.com next Monday?
Yep.
All right.
You can go to our community site, community.ubuntu.com, and there's a pinned post there as well. And you'll find a post about this. It's all about just the easy way to get a smooth transition into the Ubuntu community, helping people out and getting stuff tested. If you've got a little bit of spare time, it'll be super appreciated.
Yeah. You know what? I'll put a link in the show notes because you might not I don't always get a chance to file a bug for every little thing. I don't get to test every little bit, but I can download an ISO and give it a go, and that's something we can all do.
And that's part of the problem is, people find it difficult to do that. The process for filing bugs is a little bit abrasive. We want to make that easier, and if it's difficult, you just tell us what the bug is. We'll reproduce it. We'll file the bug, right? We'll help you through that process. We want to make it easy, but what we need is lots of different people to test this stuff on diverse platforms, lots of different systems, not just the same ThinkPad that everyone in the company has.
How about I'll bring my my MacBook that I use for video editing? How would you like that?
Do that? No, don't do that.
Nobody wants that. Although I do have a Librem 15 I could bring to the party, which it's.
I'll bring my System 76 Lemur, guys.
There you go. That's good. Got to make sure that works because.
There we go. That's 3 people signed up.
There you go.
He's done.
Yeah. And because now we got this Librem 15 here in studio that we got to talk about.
Oh, we got to get to that.
And I've been using it now for about 3 weeks, and I wasn't really quite sure how to really do this review until I went to the Ubuntu rally, and I brought this as my daily driver for the rally, and then it all just sort of clicked together. So, and now the timing's worked out really well with them nailing their crowdfunder. So we're going to talk about all of that. We got to get to this thing. We got to discuss this because I'm although we're running a little tight, I'm hoping we'll still have time to also talk about episode 250 and beyond. But first, DigitalOcean, digitalocean.com. Go over there and create your account and use our promo code DO Unplugged. It's one word and you get a $10 credit. Now, you can do a lot with this $10 credit. Traditionally, I would say, go spin up a droplet. Go like the $5 a month rig, run it for 2 months for free. Go like a maniac. Lots of distros, great dashboard, data centers all over the world. But now there's a whole new thing you could use that $10 credit for. Wes, I got to recommend, if you haven't had a chance yet, you got to try out the new DigitalOcean Spaces. It's remarkable how straightforward this is. It's simple, reliable object storage. And if you want to use it with their crazy great simple API and programmatically create storage and transfer stuff into it and then destroy the storage, and you can do that. If you also just want to upload some files through a nice web UI, generate a public URL that expires after a couple of days and can be downloaded X number of times and send it out, you can do that. And what's really nice about that is DigitalOcean has really great bandwidth. Like, their hypervisors have 40 gigabit connections, but like the data centers themselves are nuts. And that's where these files are hosted. So you're getting like the full blast of the DigitalOcean data center when you share these links.
Right. You don't have to worry. It's not like you put it on some tiny little server and then, whoops, I shared this to so many people.
Right. So when
it's prepared for that.
When you're using it to share files, super fast. When you're using it for like crazy back-end object storage, it's intensely fast. And they're giving a 2-month trial right now. If you go over to digitalocean.com, you create your account, apply our promo code DO Unplugged, and you can try out their new Spaces system. Beyond that, though, if you want to create a machine on their infrastructure, be it Ubuntu or Fedora or FreeBSD or Debian, they have the best UI to do this. They have a system that'll get you going in less than 55 seconds. And if you want to attach just traditional block storage that just shows up as like a dev SDA device or whatever, they have that too. You don't have to go with the fancy new object storage if that ain't how you roll. They have monitoring and alerting, they have load balancing as a service, and tons of pre-built open source applications ready to go. It's just really all I have to say right there.
There's really no reason. Like, just go sign up, get that.
Yeah, $10.
$10.
You can roll with that for quite a while, especially with that 3 cents an hour, which is my favorite rig.
Yeah, right. Like, there's tons of times. There's times where I have no droplets going for a little while. I'm just not. I don't have a need. I have some other things going.
Yep.
But in like less than a minute, I just open my browser, bump on over there. Several new servers. I did that last night. It's so helpful.
Yep.
And once you have everything set up, you've got your SSH keys in there. Like, it just becomes part of your workflow.
Yeah, it's a fun way to play with new open source projects that you've been tinkering around with, or something you find on GitHub. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code DOUnplugged. All one word. You apply to your account after you get started. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Unplugged program. So yeah, let's start this, guys. And Mumble Room, please feel free to jump in if you have any questions as we go along. Now, I want to start this review by talking about the obvious elephant in the room. And that is the fact that Purism reached their crowdfunding goal for the Librem 5, which is really kind of remarkable because it's a $1.5 million target.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. And this, as you recall, we've talked about this. This is the 5-inch privacy-focused smartphone that they're building from the ground up to use Matrix for encrypted communications. They'll have a separate CPU from the baseband. They're going to have kill switches for the camera. Well, hello.
Oh.
We have somebody at the door. They'll have separate kill switches for Wi-Fi and cellular connectivity and things like that. And then, of course, they're also going to not necessarily prevent the possibility of connecting to an external display or keyboard and mouse because the thing's running basically Debian. It's pure OS or whatever. With about 3 gigs of RAM, if I recall. Yeah, 32 gigs of storage and a Courage Jack, a.k.a. the headphone port. And it's reached its initial goal, and now they're shooting for the milestones, I guess, or not the milestones, but the what do you call it? What are they called? Stretch goals. Stretch goals. Yeah. Congratulations to them, I suppose.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, if anybody in the Mumble Room has anything they want to comment on that aspect of the story before we continue, feel free. I say congrats to them, and I hope this thing's a success.
Just as a comparison, like the Librem 15, they had a $250,000 goal. They made twice that, so almost $600,000. But this is a whole new scale of
it really
projects.
is. Yeah.
Can you explain to me what a multifunction port is, though?
No.
Well, did you ever
That's
want
one of their
one of your
features.
ports that just it didn't do enough? It only did the one thing.
I guess that just means USB-C.
That's what I was thinking.
I think the implication is it's a mobile device, so it's only going to have a limited number of ports. You're not going to have like tons of ports all around the edges of the device. You'll have one, and everything will connect to that, maybe with a dongle or USB-C, like you say.
Yeah. I've been following this with some interest because what seems to have really pushed it over the edge in the final last couple of days here was some people got in at really significantly high levels, like I believe perhaps the highest levels, which is quite remarkable because it caused quite the trajectory, and
it was a bit weird actually. There a little while ago, a few days ago, there were 2 people who went in at the 19,999 level and 2 people who went in at the 17,999 level, within the same hour, and then again. This morning or earlier on today, the same thing happened. 2 more at 19,999 and 2 more at 17,999. Now, it makes me think that when you add those numbers up, it's probably just one person investing, but the only way that they can invest that significant chunk of money is to split it between those 2, and that totals up to the amount that they want to invest. There's someone who wants to invest in this thing, and they're giving that amount of money. That's the only way it makes sense to me. There's no way you'd get 4 people within 1 hour giving that amount of money.
Yeah, and you've been following the chart rather closely, so I think you've got actually
a little
a good. You've got literally a good visualization of it, and that seems possible. And I suppose good for them. I think they're running the crowdfunding site themselves, so I don't know if they actually have to disclose who these people are, but I sure would be interested.
I don't know. As a privacy focused,
I can see them not doing it.
I can see them not wanting to do that, and people who donate not wanting people to know who they are, and that's perfectly reasonable.
Yep, and I think it's sort of with this as the background that I'm looking now at the Librem 15, which is their rather high end laptop. That's it's fairly competitive. This one it's black. It's all metal. It's 15.6-inch screen. It has a high-end i7 processor in it. It has very fast SSD drives. It has 6th generation or 7th. Beard, if you get a chance over there, give me a read on the graphics, because I think it's actually a Intel 600. But this was something that I didn't actually order. I didn't actually buy this. This was something that Purism thought would be appropriate to replace for me. So
it's 520.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I have the very first Librem 15 that they ever shipped that was slightly below what they had hoped to originally ship, I think. And I know that they kind of hummed and hawed about it, and they decided it was worth trying to make good on that. And I respect that. That's really nice of them. And so I wasn't expecting this when it arrived. I just thought, okay, well, this is really... So I came at it with this sort of like, well, where does this fit?
Right.
Where does this fit in my life? And so I used it. I did the standard things like, tried to push it to see how loud it could get, and tried to push the battery, and loaded Solus, and
now it's
loaded
undergoing
Gen
the beard
2
test right now.
Yeah, and loaded Ubuntu, and now it's undergoing the beard test. And it wasn't until the trip to New York came up.
Is that right?
That I went, okay, because the physical kill switches all of a sudden became a much more practical option, because I'm going into an area that I don't normally go into. And why not just turn off the Wi-Fi? Like, why not have that extra level of security? Now, ironically, iPhone 7 users did experience issues with Wi-Fi in New York, so that Wi-Fi attacks were actually a problem in that very hotel. Now, it wasn't one for this, but I actually I found a practical purpose. And I will say this too: they are implemented in a cleaner, less obvious way than the old Librem 15.
Is that right?
So it's interesting. So we have it right here, the old Librem 15. And they're like, basically there's holes in the aluminum casing, and then there's a old school electronic black toggle switch that sticks out of the aluminum
Plastic
casing.
little...
Yeah. Now with this one, it's like a nice etched plastic switch, and the hole is sort of cut to the size that it needs to be for that switch. Beard, you have it right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and they put it in. Weren't they on the side before?
Yeah, they stood out more because they were in a more obvious spot. Yeah, now they've put it more like close to the screen. And it has a matte display. I'm not blown away by the display, to be honest with you. The viewing angles are a little rough from time, but if you're looking right at it, it's a pretty great display. And the fact that it's non-reflective is a nice change of pace.
I'd say it's at least comparable or better than Lenovo displays.
Really, you like it? So you like it?
Yeah. I don't like Lenovo displays. So
now the one thing, so there's one thing that they're doing differently with the trackpad that I'm having a hard time adding a description to. It's a decently sized trackpad, and it doesn't have like an obvious right or left side. It's just one big trackpad, and it has some multi-touch support, including like 2-finger scrolling and things like that. But it's texturized. It's texturized in a way that I like, though. In a way that gives me sort of tactile feedback of where I'm at on the trackpad, like how much distance my finger has traveled, but not in a way that feels like I'm going against gunk on the trackpad. Like it doesn't cause friction.
I disagree.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Because to me, it does feel very frictiony,
Yeah.
and I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I thought you might. I'm a little more. I'm coming more from the MacBook trackpad, which is like slippery glass, and I'm just like, that's the other extreme, and I'm like, I think I like a little more traction right now.
Yeah, I've definitely had I don't mind the amount of friction on this one. Like it was pleasant enough. It's still smooth. I could move as fast as I wanted to. I've definitely encountered some trackpads where it feels like you're just dragging your finger across, I don't know, sandpaper.
Another thing that I've noticed with the trackpad is if you drag your finger from the bottom, like where the invisible buttons are, it won't move the mouse. And I haven't run into that with other trackpads.
So that's a button-only area.
Yeah.
One of the things I like is it does have hardware physical toggle right there. You can do FN and toggle the mouse button off, so you don't have to worry about accidental when you're doing a lot of typing. Speaking of typing, I'm all over the map on this keyboard.
I think
when I put the laptop down and then pick it back up, I like it a lot because I've been experiencing RSI recently. And so this is one of those laptops where my fingers aren't being slammed into like a shallow keyboard hole. There's travel, and there's some good give to it. And I like that aspect of it, but my hands don't seem to quite
line up.
Yeah.
I think this keyboard would be perfect if they didn't include the number pad.
It's funny you say that, though, because I've been really enjoying having that number pad.
Yeah, I feel like you could, if you really wanted a number pad, though, you could just get an external one and plug it in.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And the way the keyboard is, it feels cramped and too off-center, so my fingers are always on the wrong keys.
Yeah, I notice it the most when I'm typing like a complicated password.
Or when you're going through the Google Doc for the show.
Ah, yeah. But what do you think of the feel of the keyboard? Like if you're sitting down there, because that particular problem, if I'm typing a lot in a day, I can generally reset, and I can adapt.
I like the feel of the keyboard. I feel like the bass that's underneath it tends to send vibrations a bit too much. Makes the whole laptop vibrate, and it bugs me a little bit.
So those are sort of the unique things that I feel like they've brought. The reason why I wanted to talk about these things is because all of this feels different than a Clevo. This must not be a Clevo, because it doesn't feel like a Clevo at all. It feels like a custom built laptop. And that's something I generally only get an impression of when I'm holding like an XPX or a ThinkPad in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like it was built for this purpose, and it feels like it's a unique piece of equipment.
It actually feels a lot like the Razer Blade laptops, which I like.
Yeah, it does. And they have a Purism key on the Super key there, so that's the aesthetics. And it's I've mentioned it's like an aluminum all black, and now the performance has been pretty great. I've been trying to get fan issues to crop up, because that's what I had original problems with, and been quite happy with. The acoustics have been quite.
I mean, I guess if you took it to New York, you used it.
Yeah,
various situations.
And in almost all cases, I'd say battery life was pretty average.
Were you using any like power top or TLP?
No, I wasn't. I was just sort of going with, can I get my work done in the day?
Yeah.
And I was probably doing 3.5, 4 hours worth of work, and the battery was, and I just plugged it in every single night, and the battery lasted every day for me just fine.
I'm gonna run a GPU benchmark and see if it kicks on the fans.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, go ahead, because that is an interesting area to play with. So you have something that is notably better than the first model that I got in every single way. Obvious ways like the better CPUs, the better graphics, the faster SSDs, the superior screen, all of those ways. But in some of the ways that are truly purism too, like the way the toggle switches are implemented, or the obvious care that went into the keyboard that feels uniquely purism. And that actually does give me a lot of hope for the Librem 5. If anybody has ever owned a TiVo, you know that the engineers of the TiVo must have spent the majority of their time developing the TiVo remote, because that's truly the most innovative aspect of the TiVo, was the perfect peanut remote. And nobody's ever beat the TiVo remote. Nobody has ever created a better remote than the TiVo remote. And it feels like that's where purism's going with the keyboard. They're not there yet, but when you sit down and use it, it feels like something unique to them. It doesn't feel like a ThinkPad or a MacBook, and I don't think they're quite there yet, but you can tell a lot of thought and care went into that. And when you're looking at a lot of vendors out there, a lot of whom I respect, who are selling repackaged Clevos in a way that some of those things are sort of standard across all of the models, it's really nice to see some differentiation here. I don't know where they're sourcing it from exactly, so don't quote me on all of that, but it genuinely, somebody who has played with a lot of laptops, it's nice to see a unique trackpad implementation and a unique keyboard implementation with what feels like their own hinge, too, on the laptop screen. And then the performance is, as you would expect with any of this generation of Intel and SSDs.
It's like, it may not be perfect. It may not be where we want it to end up, but it feels like there's been care and concern and design choices made.
I opted not to use Pure OS, so they shipped it to me with no OS installed. And I've tried Solus, I've tried Gentoo, and I've tried Ubuntu 17.10 proper, which is what's on there right now. And Beard, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts about that too, because
Yeah,
isn't it? It's like a really great Ubuntu machine, isn't it? Like it just the new release and the black casing and the nice screen and the colors with the all black system. It all just goes really well together, don't you think?
And it says something about I didn't even realize that this was GNOME or Ubuntu 17.10 until you told me, because it looked just like a Unity desktop.
Yeah, it does look a lot like Unity 7 too. Yeah, that as well. So the Librem 15 is actually a contender. I really think it is. I don't know for myself if I would buy one today, because what I need from a system like this today is Thunderbolt 3 support in that USB-C port. And I'd like charging, and I'd like external GPU, because what I want to start doing is I want to start switching over to laptops that have Intel graphics built in with external GPU support. So I can buy one GPU maybe once a year, and then I can switch it between my systems. I was not able to get this to work with my external Thunderbolt 3 dock at all for power or for any devices, external display or anything like that. And that would be something for me that I would really, really want. Now, however, because now that I have this, obviously I'm going to be using it for things. So I'm now going to just make this my Ubuntu 17.10 system for a while, and it'll be my daily driver at home running Ubuntu 17.10.
Nice.
And I think it's gonna make a great home workstation for me.
See, for me, I think long term, I probably would not like this, mostly because it doesn't have a dedicated GPU built in.
Yeah, if you could see, that's why I was thinking, like, here at work, I'm gonna want a dedicated GPU. So if you could hook up an external eGPU.
Yeah, but for someone like me, I don't want to spend an extra $500 or $600 on an external GPU enclosure that I'm only gonna use with one system.
Oh yeah, no, I would use it across a couple systems. Yeah. Wimpy sold me on that pretty heavily.
Yeah, definitely.
But good build.
I would not be ashamed to take it into a coffee shop or conference or.
No, it looks good and it's clean, and there's no obvious branding on the top.
Yeah, kind of like that.
On the bottom, there's a Purism logo, but it's just white on black. It's nice and clean.
I feel like this is actually a laptop. If you took it to like a coffee shop or something, people would ask you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's that good polish wise.
Yeah, and I picked up at Siegel. I picked up an all white circular GNOME logo.
Ooh,
and it would look really good in the center
right
of
in
that
the center.
laptop. But of course, I may not end up running GNOME. So, but yeah, you're right.
No one has to know.
Yeah.
You just have to have it installed. You don't have
I feel like we need to do a hardware hack where we just put a glowing GNOME foot on the back of the laptop.
The next things that'd be cool. The next things I'd really like to see from laptops like this is no power dongle needed, no separate power brick and dongle. I'd like to see everything being able to be powered off USB-C.
That's an important one for me. It really simplifies things if we can get there.
I gotta say, man, when I was editing off of a car charger, a cigarette adapter in a car, off of USB-C, I was like, this is really useful. And this laptop couldn't do that, and it made it not as usable in the car. And that's just a small thing. It's only really applicable to me. Hashtag Chris problems. And then the other thing I'd really, 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 really love to start seeing is I'd love to see some other manufacturer besides Lenovo integrate LTE modems or some sort of cellular connectivity into these sons of bitches.
Right, but not in a you can add it if you open it up and add, but just like I can check it on the website.
I just add a SIM. I add a SIM card when I get it, and I can get connectivity. Because
I would love that. I would pick it all the time.
Having always on connectivity is such an important aspect to anybody that would be getting a machine like this. That we're all either jumping on insecure Wi-Fi, or we're tethering our devices in some cockamamie fashion, or we're stopping by Starbucks constantly and getting on the free Google Wi-Fi, and they monitor everything we do. Like, there's no great option. And one of the things that drives me crazy about Noah is him and his fancy-ass Lenovo, where the son of a gun has 2 batteries and an LTE modem, and it all works under Linux. I'm like, I want to buy from a vendor who only builds Linux systems but has those things. So they're working on the keyboard, they're working on the trackpad, they're working on the matte display, and they've really nailed the 15.6-inch system here. If now the next generation could have USB-C charging and Thunderbolt 3 and some sort of cellular connectivity with another hardware switch, which is something they're great at.
Yep.
I would be all over that.
Me too. Yeah.
That would be and then
you're making me drool, Chris.
That would be a great system. But in the meantime, if you don't need those things, this system nails it. I was really impressed. And what's your battery at right now? Because we've been off battery, I don't know, for at least 2 hours.
We still have another 4 hours of battery left.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Is that 67%?
Okay, so that's after about 2 hours of and you messing around on the system, checking it out, not probably doing
Running
anything
benchmarks.
Oh, you are running some benchmarks. Well, so yeah, that's not bad. And no fans yet.
Nope.
Yeah, that's really a thing about this one.
When I was running the GPU benchmark, I very slightly heard the fan. But
yeah, every now and then, just a little bit. But I'm pretty particular about that. And I had it on my desk, which is a glass desk, so it just amplifies the laptop fan noise, and really no complaints. And in fact, you know what? I had some benchmarks running on it when the room was way hotter than it should have been because I didn't leave my window open. I left my door closed, and I got in there. It was like 85 degrees in American imperial degrees, and I got in there, and it was ridiculously hot, and that laptop was chugging away. And the fan noise was still pretty respectable. It was just like a little background noise. Damn.
Wow.
Just passed the hotbox
Yeah.
test. So I'm impressed, and so I'm gonna be packaging up my old Librem 15, and they're gonna take it and probably put it under some sort of like quarantine or something. I would imagine.
Maybe an honorary sacrifice.
Yeah.
Viking funeral.
Yeah, and melt it down and use its parts for the Librem 5.
Yep. There we go.
From the ashes.
Recycling.
All right. Well, Mumble Room, you guys have been pretty quiet during our review. Do you have any questions about this here hardware and about the Librem 15 before we move on? Or any thoughts, too, if you have about the Librem 5, feel free.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
So I was wondering about, about the kill switches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really have the laptop by your side, are the kill switches soft or hard, and what can we expect if they just maybe break or stop working?
Well, I guess that'd have to be a warranty problem.
Yeah.
So they are hard plastic slide switches that slide to the they come shipped in the on position, and you just pop them over to the off position, sort of like similar to like a mute switch on a smartphone.
It's basically a physical disconnect, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's how they do it. So it just disappears to the operating system.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of nice, actually. And that's why I think they'd be one of the best vendors to ship a LTE modem, because boy, isn't that something I'd love to just leave switched off completely.
Yes, exactly.
No doubts about it. No doubts about spying, no doubts about accidental data usage, no doubts about it. Just flip that switch off, and then when I need mobile internet, I flip it on. And I think they'd nail it. Of course, they'd probably say buy a Librem 5. Oh, no. All right. So anybody else?
No. I'm good, Chris. I don't really have anything on the top of my head.
There you go. Yeah. And, yeah. Well, there you go. Beardsley, you have any closing thoughts, Beardsley, on that before we move on?
I just saw something amusing. The USB hubs that are inside the laptop, apparently the vendor is listed as the Linux Foundation.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
I bet you we could find out. I bet you there's a good story behind that.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So, do you think we could take a little time to talk about the show, or do you think we should wrap it up? What do you think?
We can talk about it.
Yeah?
I mean,
all right.
So this is a Wild West love. Plus, we started a little late, so.
I'm just excited that Dan's here from Elementary.
I know.
That's really cool. It's great to have you here, Dan.
It's great to be here, Chris.
So,
Glad to have you.
Dan was just featured, was it last week in the show? So check out interview with Dan that we just had last week. All right, so 218 right now, and we've recently had a lot of changes with the end of LAS, and there's changes in the works in JB already that you don't know about. And so I wasn't really going to make any big changes here on this show because I felt like, we'll just stay here. We'll be the eye of the
stable
storm.
rock of the network.
Right, exactly. But in such, then I began to worry about perhaps some stagnation. And so I thought, okay, well, let's make changes by episode 300. And then I thought about it, like, these things are actually pretty good. In fact, none of them are really a bad thing, so we should make these changes sooner. And so I think we're going to slowly start working towards some stuff with episode 250. So we're going to take a moment and talk about the show, which we don't do very often. And all of this is subject to change as well. So, yeah, because things change, right?
It's preliminary and meta and,
Yeah. Speaking of things changing, maybe it's time for you to change. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's where you go to learn more about Linux and all of the critical technology and the stacks of technology around it. You got to call it a stack. That's what we get to call it a stack now. Out of all of the terms we use, Stack is one of them I'm going to take. Linux Academy is a full-featured training library with everything you need to know to learn new skills and advance your career in Linux. They have hands-on scenario-based labs that give you experience on real servers. And they have self-paced, in-depth video courses, which means when you have time, you can get the work done. They have course schedulers, so you can pick a time frame and stick to it with certain learning goals. And they have human beings that can help you when you get stuck. And they have learning passes, which are a series of courses and contents planned by instructors for specific career tasks. And they have practice exams, which you can take before you actually go take the big test, which probably would have been maybe one of the number one features maybe that, and maybe the hands-on labs for me would have been the two features when I was trying to get my certs that I could have used a lot more of. I couldn't imagine having Linux Academy back in the day when I was working in IT.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I use it now just to dabble. And one of the things I love about it is you get like hour estimations of how long learning something's going to take. And you get courseware you can download with you and listen to offline. Like those are things that today I can appreciate. But oh man, when I was playing that race of making sure I can get the certification so that way I can either get improvements on the review or I can get that client, I always got to taking the test and would sort of jam up there. And if I could have taken more practice exams, or if I could have taken courses that were created specifically to prepare you for the certification exams, that would have been a fundamental enabler for me.
Well, and they you don't have to bootstrap yourself. So especially if you're new to this, it can be pretty hard. Like, okay, well, go set up your own test server at home, figure out how to do that. With Linux Academy, no, just they'll get you right in the environment you need to learn whatever it is that you're actually working on. And then after, once you've figured it out, you can just play with it. So you can, keep doing it, do it again, go advanced on it.
It's true.
It's all right there.
And if you get stuck, human beings are there to help, and they're always adding new content and retroactively adding and improving the old content as well. So go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged to sign up for a free 7-day trial and support the show. linuxacademy.com/unplugged, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program. So it's time for us to take bold action, Wes. Bold action is required upon us here for the Unplugged program.
Turns out change is a way of life.
We're making it into a show about hot sauce.
Well, we are pivoting to a cooking show. No. Well, although sometimes we joke, we one day may just launch a cooking show just to get out of our system.
That sounds actually
it
kind
feels
of fun,
like it's inevitable. Like it's going to happen. The Beard and I joke about it all the time. Okay. Let's talk about, I consider them upgrades. So let's talk about why the changes. So right now, Linux Unplugged is Jupiter Broadcasting's largest podcast, which is funny because I don't think of it as that because I'm so used to having Last be the largest podcast. It's true, though. So that means it's probably up there in terms of largest Linux podcast. I don't know if I can't claim it's the largest. Although I think if you count video downloads, it's got to be up there, but who knows anymore. Last was so huge that it just seemed easy to say, yeah, that's obvious. But now with LUP, it's like I'm slugging it out. And we don't want to stand still, basically. And like I said, I was going to wait till 300, but so I can't hold back.
Yeah, that's what. It's ways.
So what are the changes? Here's what I'm thinking. Now, none of this is set in stone. All of this is subject to change, and it's going to depend on if we can make it happen, obviously. But I think to keep Unplugged competitive and to keep people enjoying the show, we're going to go to a full video show that's better produced than last ever was, and we're going to do that by making Unplugged an audio-only show. Are you following me? We're going to become a video show that was better produced than Linux Action Show ever was. And we're going to do that by becoming an audio show. An audio-only show that's more edited. It's closer to Linux Action News' polish, but with the chill vibe of Linux Unplugged and still live.
While being a full video show.
Right. So that's what we're going to do.
Is this before or after we've invented that time travel?
So what we're going to do is we're going to buy about $1,000 or more in camera equipment if we can get the support. So we'll have a camera for me, a camera for you, a camera for a guest. Eventually, if the Beard ever goes on camera, we'll have a camera for him. And my intention is, what I'm thinking is, we'll release a full unedited video version behind the scenes, sort of like if you're going to watch like the Howard Stern show behind, I don't know, that's probably a bad example. But I'm trying to think of some radio host.
What are you setting us up for here?
Well, you and I will be on camera, and we'll make that feed available to the patrons. Because we have the whole pipeline to do that. We just have to add a couple of camera pieces of equipment. Boom, 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 done. And we've got the switcher, we've got the production pipeline, we've got the publishing platform, we've got the download CDN. Everything we need to do that is in place. But the thing I always hated about the Linux Action Show was we had a camera straight on, and it was two people sitting in front of a table and not facing each other, looking at a camera with studio lights on, and it just creates a phony environment. And the green screen didn't help. And this would be you and I still sitting here across the table, looking at each other in the eye, doing this show, lights off, relaxed, but people could just be here with us. And when you're talking, the camera will be on you. When I'm talking, camera on me, etc.
Are we going to have to put pants on for this?
No, Wes.
Okay.
No, this is for patrons.
Oh, right.
So then what we'll do, the wider audience will get a better sounding, more polished product. So we'll do multi-track recording of some capacity. I'm not there yet. We may make changes in how we produce the virtual lug so we can improve the audio quality there. And that will be a show, and we'll make small edits to that. So that way, like if there's some weird, erroneous loud noise or a click or a clack or too much talking over each other, we'll clean some of that up and publish that as the standard show with well-produced audio levels, slightly tighter and cleaner production, but not dramatically changed, which would be the main show. And then if you want the behind-the-scenes version, we'll have that completely unedited version that we have now.
It'll be like you're just right here in the studio with us.
And I think, and so don't jump to conclusions about to feel the show change or anything like that, because I think if all of this is implemented right, all the things we like about the show will just be better, and it won't be like this radical change to the show. In fact, I could have gotten away without saying anything potentially, but the wider audience should get a better sounding, more polished product that's more competitive, I think, and is easier to listen to. And the video version will have better production than the Linux Action Show ever had for those that really want it, that still miss LAS. And the hardware investment would be our initial upfront cost, but then after that, we'd be just utilizing our existing production pipeline we're already plumbed for. So it's a pretty straightforward process for JB to implement. And I think it would make for a good show all around, because those that want a really great audio show will get it, and the people that want a laid-back, sort of low-key video show will get that too.
Yeah. A lot of flexibility.
And we'll make some changes in how we record the individual microphones and mumble to make this all happen. But all of it will be for the better. So we're working towards that, towards 250. Now, I think what we're going to do, and we haven't made the official changes yet, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to set a milestone on our Patreon page at patreon.com/JupiterSignal for $4,500. So we have to change some of the milestone stuff right now. And we're going to work towards that, because we're going to make the initial purchase for the cameras, but then also we're going to either hire somebody, or I'm going to, or somebody is going to be editing the audio version of this show. So that way it's a fully fledged, well-produced, supported product. And so we also are going to be trying to raise funds to make that happen. And so that's why we're hoping that if people like this idea or just want to help us improve the production quality of the show, they'd consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/JupiterSignal. And then once you become one, later on, once the video version is published, you would get access to that.
Right.
Which is really not too far away. It just takes time and cameras.
Yeah.
All of which we can figure out, but just going to take some financing. And I know that all sounds like a lot, but if you think about all the pieces we have in place, it's actually all quite doable. Because the video can be produced on OBS.
Yeah, we have that.
And that's running all the time. The audio can be recorded on a separate machine on a multi-track recorder that spits out FLAC files or WAV files or whatever that goes off to Rekai or a dedicated audio editor or myself, that then runs the production on that and publishes that as an MP3, an OGG, or WebM, or whatever crazy-ass format people want.
Right.
And that nothing really changes there. And the video version is already done because it's unedited.
Yeah, it's just a live.
OBS creates the file, and then we upload that to Scale Engine, we publish it to the patrons, and we're done. And we don't walk this weird, awkward line anymore. It just takes us changing some hardware, or actually adding some hardware, and adding some staffing.
Yeah,
contract staffing likely. So it seems doable. So we're gonna try to get to a new milestone on Patreon to get there, and I'm hoping we get there by 250. We'll see. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Everybody?
Seems good to me.
No, I like that idea. I mean,
sounds good.
Video can be fun. I like the live unplugged aspect, and it's. I mean, we're hanging out here. It's a lot of fun. I think it would be fun to kind of share that more. And also, I've been loving LAN, so there's certainly times I would like
and
to
you've
be able
been on
to
the
say
other end
things.
of the actual production aspect of LAN, which that means there's other things there that we gain that are sort of like inside baseball, but great from a production standpoint,
Exactly.
which would be nice. Yeah.
So here's my question,
yeah.
Chris. You're going to be doing a nice audio-focused show. When are you going to upgrade me to an RE20?
I know. Maybe we'll do that when we get to the milestone as well,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Upgrade
true.
that microphone, get you off the old stuff. Yeah, see, people don't know because we don't have cameras in here, but Rikai's on this weird old mic that we used to use that we no longer use, but then when we set up 2 more additional chairs in the studio, we had to pull out the old stuff.
I miss the sexy bassiness of my voice.
Yeah, when you do user, you sit on a different mic, so it sounds like a different Rikai.
Yep.
Well, yeah, then we'll work on that too. We'll work on that. All right, so if you have any thoughts, I'd like to hear them. So go to the usual places like jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact, or you can go to linuxunplugged.reddit.com. Or if you're a patron, I'd really like to hear your thoughts at patreon.com/JupiterSignal. And before we go, I want to give a plug to Mr. Popey's Ubuntu podcast. Go check that out. Always a great listen.
Yeah.
See, what have I'm listening. Hold on, let me print out my player right now. I'm listening to.
Time and
I am listening to season 10, episode 31 right now. So, I love the show. And you know what? After seeing those guys in New York, I realized I missed hanging out with them when I got back to Washington. It's true.
That's so sweet.
So you want to hear my solution? It's not bulletproof, but it's there. It's getting there. You ready? Hey Siri. What are beans?
Bean is a common name for large seeds of several genera of the flowering plant family Fabaceae, also known as Leguminosae, which are used for human or animal food.
I've changed my Siri voice to be quote unquote British. And now I think you guys when Siri talks to me, which is weird in a lot of ways when I think about it.
Yep.
I think about it. Yeah, so check out the Ubuntu podcast and of course ubuntuonair.com on Monday 1500 UTC for the ISO testing. Seems like a good cause. Seems like a very good cause. All right,
Thanks,
gentlemen. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. I think that's going to bring us to the end of this week's show. Is there anything else we want to cover? I was going to try to fit in the Gen 2 review this week, but I think we've kind of run out of time. So I guess we should probably punt that till next week. And, who saw that coming?
Yeah,
I didn't.
I don't know. We don't want to distract people. Should be thinking about the show, the future, getting excited for it. So that's a perfect note to end.
Well, and the Librem 15 review is really the meat of the show. That was the focus this week. So I hate to talk about Gen 2 when it hasn't been the primary focus. So I guess for this week, we're going to punt it. I didn't see it coming. Didn't see it. I apologize. I'm sure we'll get to it soon, though. I'm sure that's coming up very soon, maybe 219. In the meantime, thank you very much for being here. If you'd like to join us, go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. We have all of our live times there. And then we got a mumble room you can participate in. A mumble room. Go to mumble.jupitercalling.com for the setup guide. As long as we're still using that. We'll see. We'll see. You can also subscribe to get the show weekly. And, of course, we appreciate any content on the subreddit that I mentioned just a bit ago. Follow the network at Jupiter Signal on Twitters. And we'll see you right back here next Tuesday. All right, and it is officially post-show. Good job, everybody. It was great having y'all here. Now let's go pick a title. Let's go see if we can't name this thing. JB Titles, see if the chat room came up with anything. If you're in the Discord room, feel free to drop a few in there right now. Windows Unplugged, Foggy Transport Protocol, Punting Gen 2. Who saw that one coming? Punting Gen 2 again. Jeez.
He came.
There you go.
Well,
no, I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah.
So
I could make it for the tail end of that. That was cool.
Well, Chris, I just finished setting up GNOME.
Nice. GNOME 2.
Yes, exactly.
You crazy. Now, are you going to load Compiz or, maybe
Barrel?
Barrel?
Yeah, I'm getting Compiz on this son of a gun.
Compiz Fusion.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to have the Fusion icon, baby.
Yeah, I gotta get the control center icon thingy so you can right click and
Yes,
restart.
Exactly, man.
Can't live
But I
without
did back
snow on
up
their
the.
desktop.
I definitely have to. I definitely backed up the e-build so that way I don't have to go unmasking all this crazy crap all over again.
Some Libram love's not bad. I kind of think maybe we should have a title with Libram in it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad.
Yes.
The new Libram is a snap.
That's good. That's almost worth using. Maybe it should be something like.
I like that too. Libram is a snap.
Libram. What about Libram's? Okay, what about this? What about Libram's second chance or Purism's second chance? Would that be better? Purism's second chance, because it's like the Libram 5 is the second chance, and this is the second hardware they sent me, so it's like I'm giving it another go. So it's like one of them double entendres.
It's not too bad.
A double anaconda.
Something like that. Like
a double anaconda.
Resurrection of Libram.
Libram's second chance. Purism's second chance.
Second tries is the charm.
Purism.
But I'm trying to get either Purism or Libram in the name. I'm trying to get that in the title.
Second chance Libram.
I think Libram's second chance is better than second chance Libram. That's the only thing. See, this is why the good Lord invented cigars and gin, because these are things that should be decided over cigars and gin,
right.
and not over live streams. But we do have the collective
Cigars
wisdom.
And brandy, Chris.
I don't do brandy. I know. I'm not a brandy guy, but unless maybe I haven't met the right brandy, I'll take that. Libram's second chance. I kind of feel like that might be.
Likeable Libram.
That's campy.
Yeah, it's super campy.
That's kind of adorable though.
What about Purism : double filtered?
Man, geez, we got activity. We got activity. Yes, little doorbell. Yes. Sorry. I got a little excited there.
A little?
Yeah. We're having trouble connecting to your ring. Well, then why did you just send me a notification, you son of a guns?
How about Purism Part 2?
Simple.
The Return of Purism, Purism Part 2, Purism's Revenge.
Purism Strikes Back.
Purism Strikes Back. Any of these, anybody getting particularly excited? Or none of them beating Libram's second chance, or is Libram's second chance? Where's that at? Because I feel like,
have a system for this.
Yeah, that's the benchmark. Well, there's no Discord.
What about re-Libram?
That is ridiculous. That is the worst idea ever. No, I don't know. Okay, give him a couple more to me again. Come on, give me three.
The Libram bad boy.
Give me the last. What were the last three that we liked? You weak-minded bastards.
You were supposed to be picking the title.
You were supposed to be bank suggesting for us, Chris.
We're too busy playing with the Libram.
Okay. All right. So the only one
Libra bomb.
What about Libram Part 2?
Purism Strikes Back, Purism Part 2, Libram Part 2, Libram Second Chance.
Return of the
I like
Libram.
Libram Second Chance, really.
I think it's kind of the way to go, but I kind of don't. I don't love it though. I wish we had something a little better.
For some reason, I really want to make it a Back to the Future reference, but I can't make it work.
That would be awesome. That would be quite good. All right. Well, that's it. Right
and
there.
my friends, I am in Gnome 2 on the desktop.
Maniac.
I kind of like Purism Rising.
Yeah. I don't.
I mean, I guess there's that this is
it's okay
second chance, and now with the 5.
It's okay for you to not have good taste, Chris.
I understand it is. All right. Well, we should go. Dan, thank you for making it. It was good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, do come back.
The Content Factory continues on behind the scenes, but we must go now. We must go. The sausage continues to get made, but we do it off air from this point forward.
That sounds delicious.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does
All
kind
right,
of.
I'll see you guys next week.
Jupiter Broadcasting branded sausage. Yeah. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks for being here.
Now with added janky spice.
All right, chat room. You know what that means. We're getting the F out of here, and we love your faces, but it is time for us to go. If you're going to stick around, I'm going to put the latest reruns on the live stream. Otherwise, tomorrow we have... Is BSC now live tomorrow? Because we have Unfiltered live tomorrow.
Not sure, actually.
Yeah. Well, you can check the calendar, but yeah, I will be doing Unfiltered at our roughly around our regular time. So that should be. So
Yeah,
stick around
yeah.
for that.
Get
All right,
that-
guys.
Get that news drip.
Yep. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow.
Bye.